Well, hello there. I was just watching this video, or I actually just started. I wasn't watching it. I just pressed play and then I hit go on the stream because it looked pretty. And I thought, hey, my new computer has a 3090. Does that mean my computer can look like this? But for 8K, my monitor's not 8K. My monitor's, well, my PC monitor is not. And I was, oh, come on. Oh, now the video won't even play for me at 4K. What game is this? Assassin's Creed Origins. Buffering. All right. Well, welcome to the stream, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you haven't, check out InfinityPBR.com because I put up a preview for Black Friday. Starts on Friday night. If you click these links, they are affiliate links. Thank you very much for clicking them and then buying stuff during the sale because just 3 days and 1 hour to go. A whole bunch of stuff is on sale. And I noticed, we can talk about the lightning deals in a second. I'm only going to talk about this for a little bit. We can talk about the lightning deals. I noticed there's a few more. The other day, there were 16. Now there are 20. These 4 are new. And this one, Medieval Kingdom UI, looks like it's right up my alley. And for 90% off, this will only be $10. What a steal for some prototyping UI artwork. And I'm not logged in, so I don't know if I already own it. It's possible I already own it, but cool. So yes, we got the RPG Character Complete Bundle. Will be 50% off. The Medieval Town Environment, 50% off. The Low Poly Monster Bundle, 50% off. Then we have the Lightning Deals. If you haven't looked into the Lightning Deals, this is an interesting concept, if I do say so myself. And I do. Hello, the bull. Ouch, I burnt my tongue on coffee this morning, and I've got leftover coffee because of it. And still hurts a little bit. Nice. So the Lightning Deals, my understanding here, I'm pretty sure it's accurate, is that the first 20 people will get 90% off. The next 50 people will get 80% off. The next, I don't know how many. The next group of people will get 70% off, and then from that point on, it will be 50% off. So all of these will be on sale, but here's the deal. They are on sale at different times. So similar to last year's, the Black Friday, they always had the daily deal. This is kind of like that, except there's a lot per day. So like 3 a.m., 9 a.m. Pacific time. So you got the dates and times listed here when these will go on sale. Now, they'll be on sale after this point too, but if you want them for 90% off, you have to be there at this time to make sure you can grab it for 90% off. Now, 90% off is a lot of money. It would cost you $14 for 4 amazing characters with all the music and sound effects and all that stuff. So it's a screaming deal. It's an insane deal. And I want you guys to be the ones to get the deal. I don't want some random schlob who doesn't come to the streams to get the deal. They can pay 70% off. Or 90% off, it should be my friends, the people who participate. So, I want to make sure that you all get the good deals at the asset store. Yeah, CCG kit's a good one though. I would like. Oh, and before I forget, for just a secret, I don't. It's not really a secret, but you have to click the buy now button. My understanding is that if you add to cart now, you won't be able to buy it at discount. There will be an a button that you have to click to get the deal. So there will be a buy now button here. Yeah, but CCG kit, you can add to cart, but yeah, I want to use CCG kit. It's got 4 stars though. I don't know why. I mean, it's got a lot of 5 stars. Wait, terrible. I bought into the reviews. Devs won't work with you. Dev response is a lie. I have made contact with them. I have made contact with Unity. I've made contact with PayPal. I have all the receipts as well. Wow, that's This seems like a very reasonable reply. This seems like they're gonna get. I mean, if they're gonna do a chargeback, pretty sure Unity doesn't deal well with chargebacks. Sometimes I like to look at the person. Towers don't work. Fmod support needed. He yells when he's angry. When, you know, lots of yelling. This is a user who needs support. Is it good though? It might be ancient, but is it good? I mean, the reviews. Oh, only support Unet. All right, so it's part of it. It includes networking. I didn't even think it included networking. That's I guess it says multiplayer. I want to build in a card game into Legend of the Stones. So when you go to an inn, you can sit down and play the card game with other people who are playing Legend of the Stones. So it's not really a multiplayer. Legend of the Stones isn't multiplayer, but when you're in the inn, you can interact with people. And maybe there will be a way to trade items or something like that too. But wouldn't be like a multiplayer, but this mini game would be. That's the idea. Will the store page have any countdown and update when it's done? I believe, I've heard from a little birdie, that there will be a countdown clock like this, but I think it's in the last 24 hours. And the idea is supposed to be, hit 0, you click the buy button. That's like, you gotta be on the page. You can be on the product page. You can be on the listing page, but you won't need to reload. Just, yeah. So definitely check out Infinity PBR, and please, if you're going to buy stuff from the asset store, doesn't matter if it's my stuff or not. If it's all the same to you, my affiliate link will be super helpful. Oh, I didn't even mention this. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention this, but on November 25th, which is actually I mean, this is Thanksgiving for America, but for most of the world, it's Black Friday. These will be on sale at 50% off too. So these will be added to the sale. Game modules bundle, which I'm about to start using. I need to get it updated before this. That's my goal, is to get it updated before that. Or maybe after, because I really want to use the new release discount. And I was planning on making this major update into a major update so I can use the new release discount. So I don't know. Anyways, then the rest of the site's there. So definitely check that out. Let me tell you what I was doing. I put the game modules into this, and then I started, like, there were a bunch of errors. It had to load up in whatever the mode is that doesn't load the whole of Unity. And I fixed the errors. And after I started fixing some errors in the character creation scene, I realized most of the errors were just that I changed the namespace of some of the modules that they needed their namespace changed. And so I just figured out how to do that update on all of the scripts, and then they went away. But I had started already changing the some of the stuff on some of the scripts, so we got some errors. But my goal now is to implement the game modules into Legend of the Stones to where I had it before, and in that process figure out where I go wrong in the other project, because there are things like I noticed I keep the scripts outside of that, and I think I need to keep it inside. I also don't know if that is the official Infinity PBR scripts with the GUID of that, so I'm going to say it's just to make sure I need to put these in here. That was one thing I noticed I did incorrectly. Delete that. I also updated the README file, so now they're all in one little file, so you can just click and see all the READMEs. I can make it more fancy, but for now it's just this. I know there's some 3 a.m. stuff for Infinity PBR stuff for Pacific time, and I'm like, whoop, I guess people in Asia are gonna get it. Oh, my tongue hurts. I sipped the coffee this morning. I was like, I made a mistake. Oh well. Yeah, so that was one thing. There's probably other things I need to change. I moved all the demo scenes and the demo files into their own folders. So technically you don't have to include those if you don't want to. But there's more cleanup I'll have to do, and I'm probably going to find some bugs and other things I need to fix. But the first thing I need to do before I can actually get the character creation scene working, which is the next thing I want to do, because I'm just going to go pretty linearly with creating a character first. Create scripts here directory. I mean, so one way, of course, is just to select where you want it to be and right click to create the script, but I don't think so. When I think about it, I will right click to create the script, or I'll duplicate an existing script if I'm going to use some of the same settings or some of the same code. And then when I don't remember to do that, I have to always remember to go back here and be like, oh, like these, for instance. I'm not sure if I'm using these, but yeah, they might be something I'll have to check out. So that's why it's always important to check your asset store packages in a brand new project before submitting them to the store, because there's way too many times to make that mistake. All right, so the first thing I need to do is set up the items and stuff with the new system. And I guess that means the real first thing, sorry, I coughed. The real first thing is to remember where the heck I had all this stuff. Let's see, RPG project, that was the one. Items. All right, so I'm gonna rename this items old, and I'm gonna make a new one called items. And inside items, oh, and I'm gonna underscore in front of that. All right, inside items, I'm gonna create Actually, let's make this item objects and duplicate it. Why is it being so slow? Item attributes. It's not my fault because none of my stuff is loaded right now, but it's being extremely slow. I don't know. A star. I tried using that. Not sure if I'm going to use her or not, but I was earlier trying it. Huh. I need to start using ooh, undo history. That's new. Oh, also, this is 2021.2. I updated the project to use the latest Unity, so now I am using the latest Unity. That's interesting, the undo history. I had collaborate set for this. Huh. There's a little bit of workaround, but yes, that sounds like it would work. Alright. Coffee at night. Nothing like coffee at night. Alright, so here we can create prefixes, or just call it what the heck? Whoa, what is going on here? I hit delete. Okay. Nope. I hit F and it deleted. What is going on? Nope. I hit E. It's like it's one key behind. Okay, I'm gonna quit Unity and reload it. Unity's freaking out right now. Maybe I shouldn't be using the latest version. This is why people say don't use the latest version. Living on the edge. What? What? Enter safe mode. Yep. Well, I know these errors exist. I'm exiting safe mode. Oh, then I have to wait for collab. This is the problem. I turned collab on. I haven't used it yet, but it's true. It is the bleeding edge. So I've been, Aaron, you were there when I was talking about how I've been inspired by New World and the height of their grass as well as the density. And that's something that I see in a lot of Unity games, or games that use some of these art packs from the asset store. They don't have tall grass necessarily. And I think that's something computers can do these days, maybe. Or at least computers in 3 years can do. How long is it going to take to finish my game? Hopefully not 3 years, but I guess it's possible. Anything's possible. While we're waiting, you know, I bought this fancy computer keyboard for the new computer with LED lights and everything. I don't like it. It's too tall. The keys are too tall. It hurts my wrists. I'm used to these small Mac keyboards, so I ordered a Mac keyboard to use with the other computer. It's a refurbished space gray one, and I'm going to use that as my main keyboard and use the older keyboard for the PC. But yeah. All right. Exit safe mode. Geometry. Yes, I want to exit anyway. Hi, Jason Storey. All right. Let's see if I can actually type properly now. Prefix. All right, that worked. And we need a suffix. It's still being super slow, though. What the heck? Ah, fuck. Is there a way to revert? Is it just being slow? Is that what's going on? S U F F I X. Hit return. Well, it's just I don't even know. Chiclet keys? I know what chiclets are. Let's see. Alright, well, let's create the prefix strong. Just to get 1-to-1 to where we had before. Alright. And since I've got bugs, it won't load everything. Alright, I was hoping I could get that done before this, but apparently not. Alright. Item object. Just gonna have to go through all of this, and yes, figure out where it breaks. It's gonna be cascading breaks for a while. This is gonna be a very boring part of the stream. I hope you have good jokes. Somebody should tell a joke. I hope you get done by Sunday too. Now, Jason, just a heads up, I've got a live interview at 12 noon on Sunday, right after the game dev show. But I wonder if you want to preview yours during it, I wonder if we could preview yours like at 11:45 or something. What do you think? Just a thought. I'm going to be interviewing the developer of Fluffy. Type. What is this saying? Give held object is looking for a list. Alright, well. Alright, so the player's inventory needs to be a game object items list. Game item object list. There's new game item object list. Huh. Do I not have now? I thought I had now. Okay, I must have added it to this and then overwrote it. I need to remember what my YouTube cool name is. English, the bull. The answer is English. Oh, that too. It has nothing to do with the beer you're drinking. Alright. I don't have a now function. should have a now function, so let's make a now function. This is in game time. Where's game time? Game time, game time. Scripts. I wonder what was now? Was now like supposed to be today now in the real world or game time? Because in that case I just have get game time. Let's see. Yep. Get game time. That's what I needed. Game item object list. Why is it throwing this error? Throwing this error. Full name's a string. Oh, I see. I changed it to add the recompute. Okay. Oops. Item object. Game item object. You were right, Jason. What is this? Item object to items? This doesn't make any sense. Old name was item, now it's item object. Player method. Old item object. Why is it giving me old item object? Do I have that in here? Nope, it must have changed it in my goings-ons. What am I doing here? I just need to copy this whole thing. This needs to just be that, and I'm not going to change a thing. Okay. Look at all these errors. What is this? Where's that find and replace again? Was it this? And nope. Not fine. I need. Oh. Control H. Oh. Cancel. I see what I did earlier. I accidentally refactored all of item into that. Well, Wyman has like 170,000. You mean Discord, I see. Nice. See, William, that's what I'd like to... What? Corey, you're not on Discord. What? Why? Is it because you don't use Discord? I never used Discord until a year ago, when I created my own, essentially. Let's see. Just expensive, okay. Relink player equipment. Alright, I'm going to comment this out and do a debug.log warning. Redo this. And then comment this block out, because that will be redone with the new system. And same deal here. All right. Going through the errors. try to equip. I think what we're doing here will show, okay, so this is just saying, do we have something equipped? So it's not equal null. Or rather, there's a game item object. So when we add a new one, we're adding item object. So yeah, so if it has no item object, so does not equal null. So I can actually add something to this that might make it a little easier, and we can say public bool has item object, and it's going to return item, or let's say return item object dot equals null. Actually, opposite of that. So if it's not null, then it will return true. So then here, I can just say expression is always true. That's not the case though, right? Because item object can be null unless, oh no, underscore item object. There we go. That expression should not always be true. Because it can be null. And in fact, I can set it null here. Okay, so debug.log warning. May need to revisit this. Move on, but I do need to make sure I add this to the other script. For parity. Let's see. What's my next bug? Can fit item. What is item? Item. Nope, not going to be an item. It's going to be a game. Game item object. Item object. Parent item. Item. This is interesting. Okay, we have to redo this. Debug.log warning. Redo this because this is going to change the item system enough that it just needs to be redone. All right. So that'll solve that bug. On-screen item held. Try learn spell. All right, we need to redo this part too. So because the suffixes will be different, so that just needs to be redone. All right, let's see where we are. Wrong project. At least now the icons are different, so it's easier to see which project's which. YouTube could be a job for me if I had 1 million views per video. That would mean I could do it as a job. Let's see. Infinity PBR items. Nope. Let's see. Character creation scene. What does this refer to? We're not even using it, so let's just comment it out. New item. Starting item. So we're actually getting starting item equals item repository. Okay, so this is actually going to be an item object. Or is it actually an idea? Dot. I don't think the item repository has a method to create a game item object. No, but it should. So we're going to say public game item object create game item object string UID. It's going to return create game item object by UID. And we're going to create this method, and it's going to say our new game item object equals new game item object, and we're going to say what is the first thing. Item object is going to be get item object by UID. And null. Null there. Alright, so we have a new game object. And that's all. We're just returning. So return vturn. So return that. I need to copy this into the item repository here. And put this here. Alright, so now I can say create game item object by yep, I'll just copy this in. It's gonna have to be redone because I'm pretty sure we're saving the name rather than the UID. So debug.log warning, redo this UID. Alright. name, object name, full house. Object type. Alright, so debug.log warning. Redo this. It's like I'm yelling at myself. Anything with the suffixes and prefixes I gotta redo later. What is this? Full name. Can't set the full name. If the full name was that. That's a lot of stuff. Refactor this. Let's see. Remove default. So this should be game item object. Jason, genuinely friendly? Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably. Though I've never met him in person. He could be an AI. Really? That's a short time to get a job. It says a lot about them and you. Item object. Ah. Alright, let's see what error is next. Well, I'll tell you the thing that I didn't like about it was I kept accidentally clicking to the logger rather to the bit of code. Yeah. Yep. Oops. Why is this not working? SS demo UI player name. I don't think I need this. Where is this live? I don't need any of this. Load game menu. Oh, interesting. I must have previously updated game time to give myself the option of giving a different date. So double date to use equals null. I can't do null, right? -1. Cancel. I don't know what. Okay. So if date to use equals -1, then date to use equals now, or time now. What would I call it? I call it something. What did I say? Game time. All right. So if we pass in a date, then great. Otherwise, we'll use game time. And then date to use. I need a deconstruction of a date. Let's see. How would I do that? Yeah, I feel like I did this before. I must have overwritten it. Oops. This is why I need to remember to, if I make a change here, always move it over to the other one. There's a lot of Irish blood in my family, apparently. My mom was surprised, and I said, Mom, our family's full of alcoholics. Wasn't it obvious? As Jason's on his second case of beer. That's a stereotype. I'm sure there are alcoholics all over the islands up there. All right, so how would I deconstruct public float? I guess would be int. Is minute an int? It is an int. Ha 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 ha. That's stereotype too. Public int minute from game time, and we're gonna say double game time equals -1, and if game time equals -1, then game time equals game time. And then, so this is how we get minutes. Yes, I'm almost very confident that I did this before. So I can say here, minutes equals, well, that would be a, never mind. No, this is not. It would be mod, right? Let's see. So if I know minutes equals game time mod minutes per hour. So if that's 60, and game time int time, let's say var int time equals int game time. Does that work? It seems to. Alright, so this should work. This background music is from the Slime Pack PBR. You can see how many times I've accidentally hit new when I'm in a new window by I'm here. So this is from the Slime Pack. This playlist has a whole bunch of stuff from the Infinity PBR stuff. Not all of it, but most of this playlist is from Infinity PBR. Alright, I need someone to tell me if this is right, because the mod stuff always confuses me. If I have my whole game time, which is just a big number, but I should probably subtract, though. I need to subtract the starting something, don't I? Shoot. You know, I could... I don't know if I've saved. My backup system hasn't been working for a bit. It's been backing up, but then suddenly it says the last backup was October 3rd. But for the past couple weeks, it's been backing up. Oh no, I'll just have to add this to the year. I guess I have to add the starting minute. Okay. I think. I don't want the remainder? Yeah, I do, because that's what minute it is. Right? I mean, let's see. Let me write it out. Okay, let's say game time equals 1,000. And there are 60 min per hour. So if I divide 60 by, well, let me whip out my calculator. 1000 divided by 60. There's a little left over. So there's about 40 minutes left over. So that would mean that 1000 mod 60 equals 40. Yeah, so that's the minutes. So that's what I'm looking for. However, since game time starts at 0, and my minutes start at 13, I don't want it to be just add, because that wouldn't make sense. Yeah, 75 minutes to be 15 would be 15. So I hate this part. Maths. If 0, do I need to subtract or add 13? Or do I need to do it at the beginning? I could mod it twice. I could do that and then say minutes plus... what do I call it up here? Minute. Okay. Minute plus equals minute. And then minutes equals minutes mod minutes per hour. That would get the right answer, but can I just add it up here then? Like that. No, none of this makes sense. None of this is making sense to me. I don't think this is it at all. I don't fight you every step of the way. I don't fight you every step of the way at all. When I first took Jason Wyman's course, he started out with unit tests, and I did that for a bit, and I thought that's cool. And then I stopped his course. I got busy with work, but yeah. Well, what I'm trying to do, and I should probably just make a to-do this later, really. Let's see. I'm trying to... Where'd the bug go? I'm trying to make it so I can get the human readable game time or time from any given game time. And in game time there is full, so there's game time, which is just a double, and then there should be human readable full date. And I'd like to be able to throw in any number there and get out this based on that rather than based on game time. Unfortunately, these are structured to be counted during the game. So I kind of have to like deconstruct a double. Well, deconstruct this into the various parts. So here you can see I've got minute, I have hour, day, month, etc. I need to get from this from a double those various bits. So it's really just going backwards from here. Because you can tell game time is minutes plus the sub counter. Which counts the seconds before you tick up minute 1. So I think what I'm going to actually do is just redo this later. Because I just don't want to deal with it right now. See ya, C. Wilson. See ya, C. So I'm just going to do that later. I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to do that later. Yep. Because that's not what I wanted to do tonight. I did not want to do that tonight. That wasn't my goal. Inventory count. Item. I'm gonna have to redo this part. I feel like we've had this conversation last time I was doing this, but time can be different. It doesn't have to be like our time, so I don't think I can use built-in methods for it, because it might be that there's only 20 minutes per hour, or only 10 hours in a day, or something like that. Item world collider private game item object. I don't. Oh shit! I did it again. Don't refactor that. Yeah, I can. I'm gonna have to redo this too, but as long as it's not throwing an error, I'm happy right now. Well, the smallest time unit is actually minutes. The seconds per game minute refers to actual real world seconds. So if there's 3, that means every 3 real world seconds, the minute hand will go up by 1. But the minute is the smallest number there that will be displayed. It won't show seconds. To redo this part too. Debug.log. Redo. Excuse me. Got a hiccup. I have to redo this as well, actually. That's okay. It's not throwing an error. Oh man, did I really remove that too? Fudgesicle. I wonder something. Maybe. Where's my game time? So the problem is that I was dumb and I added stuff to this script specifically for my purposes, and I didn't port it over to the other one. So I'm wondering if I go back in time here and revert this bigger file. Let's restore and we'll see if all my things I did before are just there. Yeah. Don't make that mistake anymore. All right. Aha! Get month name. Get. Oh, maybe not. Time left. Full date. What's this? Ooh. I did do this before. Look at that. This is how I did it before. So I did things like, let's see what I did. Minute. Oh, okay. So I was close. I was close. Game time equals game time mod game time per hour, and then I did floor to int of game time divided game time per minute. Interesting. All right. Anyway, so I have done that before. So I'm going to finish the things, the bugs, and then I will copy this to the other project. Huey Lewis in your playlist next. Huey Lewis and the news. What is game time under now? It is supposed to be namespace Infinity PBR game time. Out of time. What? You're not working the bull? Well, geez. What do you, is it, did you have the day off because of the holiday? We have to redo this too. All right. Getting closer. Get value, learn stat or skill. We don't do that anymore. So whoa. So I'm just going to turn default. Nope. When I finally press play, it's gonna be so many redos. Yep. All more power to you. I could not work on this while listening to other people talk. Just couldn't do it. At the coffee shop, I always have headphones on and like listening to rainymood.com or something similar, like relaxing music that doesn't have words, because I can't otherwise do it. Game data old. I'm just gonna delete that. Looks like I don't need that. Right click item. Sounds like a wonderful do later. Redo this. Turn false. Redo this. Redo this. Just gonna copy this. I feel like I'm gonna be doing a lot of redos. Anything with modification levels and all that needs to be redone. Okay, fair enough. I don't know if I need to do this. Relinking of the data might be updated as well. I want to point out, by the way, that this whole thing was inspired because one day, Jason Storey, you were like, I forget what you said, but you said one thing, and I was like, took 3 days, and the whole 3 days I was thinking about it. I was like, shoot. And then I went back and did it, and that took weeks. But it's a good change. Temp hard-coded items. Well, this isn't going to be done anymore. So we can just get rid of that. Our loot box system works now, so we don't need to worry about any of that. There's bugs in the old system. Alright, what is this? UI details panel. You can't equip that. New item is supposed to be a game item object. And that's also game item object. Full name. Display delta, stat delta. Game item objects. And redo this. Redo. Where's the bug? There's the bug. Wow, I'm getting lazy with my redo this message. Yes, it was an improvement. And, oh, I don't know who amongst you, I forget who it was, somebody in one of the streams maybe earlier this week said, I meant to talk about this, but you said something like about the inventory, the spots, X and Y's and all that, and you made a comment about how it would be better if it were hard-coded or something, and I took that and I went with it, and now I mean, there's really dictionary module could be used for this, and that's originally the point, but then I thought, you know what, you don't have to use it if it's not something you want to use. But I decided I just need to find where the damn stuff is. Ah, here we are. So I ended up adding it to a tab here. So now the height and width, inventory, and world prefab are all here. It's optional. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. If you're not using my inventory, you don't have to use it. But now they are hard-coded in. And that's probably an improvement just because now you don't have to set up your own custom dictionary, which was this before, if you remember. Those 5, the spot, X, and Y are also hard-coded in, so I can remove all of those to run the inventory. So that's that. I just want to share that. All right, sorry. I got sidetracked. Almost done with this part. Ooh, prefix and suffix means do later. Oh, this is old anyways. Delete this script. But that's not the right word. Box manager. Why can't you find that? Huh. Did I not put that in the right spot? Demo files, loot. You see that? That's a weird bug. Huh. Apparently I didn't include it before. That's weird. Generate item modification demo. What's going on here? See that? It's probably a... Oh, look at that. It's probably a Mac bug, but it could be a Unity bug too. What's new? Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's new, Unity? Alright, so it's gonna replace that. Just nothing's new. So what's it not implementing? Generate item modification demo. Generate item modification demo. Huh, I must have changed something. Alright, it's back. Heck no, this project is the zombie code project. I do plan on cleaning it up and getting rid of all the zombie stuff once I get this working again. There's enough here that's, it's just, yeah. Add item buttons. What is, how did I rename this with, what? This is like, first of all, this is old. Alright, let's, I don't know what's going on here. TDD systems. Rewind the clock. What's TDD systems? Tower defense of destruction? I assume it's tower defense and destruction. Handle loot. This is not right. LootBox Manager demo. Ah. It's because this is old. Yep, there was no easy way to redo to update this without just going through this process, I think. As far as I know. Because I didn't want to redo things from scratch. I was just changing things slightly, but in a different project. LootBox Manager, though. Wait a minute. LootBox Manager. It's old. Okay, so this is all old. And it's not going to be used anymore. Still one more. Test-driven development. Is it really only one left? What is this? Game item object list. That should not be old. Let's see. Game item object list. That was done. Boo Lang. This is the thing that gets me. Sometimes while just typing, these will be added. I believe this is old as well. Box editor. Or not. Nope, it's not old. See, Boo Lang got added here. Oh, it's adding. That's weird. System. Oh, that's what I did. Interesting. Okay. Good night, the bull. All right. This is tiring. LootBox editor. This is just old. Just don't want to do any of this. Can I just comment out this entire thing? Yes, I think I can. The flip side. The B side. That's because this is the older version too. Alright, well, I will implement it boilerplate. Yep. I remember what I was doing there. I don't think I actually need to redo this. This is probably not going to be used anymore. Well, my other computer is apparently... Oh, it's on the YouTube. I noticed it was playing sounds, or trying to. It doesn't have speakers. But all right, maybe you people know. I need to know when an ultra wide 49-inch ultra wide monitor that's high DPI is going to come out. Is that anytime soon? Is that technology going to be anytime soon? I don't know, Jason. I think I think I'm on board. It's just I don't know much about it. And you know how you were wondrous that I was able to focus on redoing the game modules without working on the game itself, etc. Ooh, I think that was it. And I guess there is a limit where I just want to work on the game. And I think it's because I've been playing New World and stuff. And I'm like, I want to work on the game. And I know inside that what you're going to teach me is good. You know what I mean? Ooh. Is that it? Was that all that done? Oh, okay. Let me just click. Oh, no. Oh, okay, play. Let's see how many... What's going on? What are you doing, Unity? There you go. Lots of issues. That's fine. I expected issues. Philosophically. I think you could convince me. I think you already have convinced me. I just... You know? Just tired. I actually am tired tonight, and that's probably the real reason why I don't want to do it right now, because I am tired and my head just wants to play a video game and then go to bed. Because although today was a holiday, tomorrow's not, and almost everyone at work took the day off, so it's going to be a slow day where I get actual work done. But yeah. Stay a while and listen. Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. I don't actually know the voice I was supposed to use. Oh. I never played Diablo 2. All right, Jason. I'm listening. All you have to do is come hang out in the voice chat channel. And anyone else, if you'd like, come to the Discord right now. Hang out voice channel. Rename this to be the Jason Storey Story Hour. And let's hear Jason convince me of what I know I should be convinced of. I am all ears, which is a very awkward feeling, and I don't have enough Q-tips to clean myself. William's here. Hold on, I gotta turn off this music, I realized. Alright, now talk, William.
I muted myself because I'm using my push to talk for something else. But I'm here.
Yes. I saw you were in New World earlier when I joined, and I thought, ooh. And then I thought, no, they're probably somewhere way off in the distance. And then I just killed some bad guys and did some quests.
Yeah, I was in a level 60 area.
Yes, I would have died. What? I have to... How do I have... It won't let you join this? But you're a friend of the show. I should invite Daniel. Wait a minute. You're already invited. But all these people are already my friends. I don't know what that was. Huh. Well, geez. We tried restarting the Discord just in case it's going cray-cray. Click and nothing happens. It's not... I don't think it's role-based. Let's see. How do I change roles? I'm gonna hide the screen for a bit. Be right back. Have the role or the ability. It has the ability. Oh, you're there. I can't hear you if you're talking. You might be pushed to talk, Jason, just so you know.
It's all right. Yeah, I might be. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
There we go. Nailed it. We figured it out.
Yeah,
it wasn't
see,
letting me until
technology.
It's weird. I literally I left. I joined. I refreshed. It changed the entire channel list and let me access it. I don't know what changed.
Sometimes you just need to turn it off and turn it back on.
True. Turn that on again. That's the solution.
All right, convince
So
me.
I have a knowledge bomb ready to drop right here. So here's my. I want to get into like really the depth of this, but I also want to be very careful. So I've done a lot of research into this, like an undue amount of research, and so I'm gonna preface this with this isn't my.
You cut out again. Hi, Mr. Dave. Jason, I can't hear you, just so you know.
You can't hear me at all.
Oh, now I can. I can hear you say that.
Oh, this is infuriatingly.
Oh.
Let me try this. So
Okay.
I want to say this isn't my opinion. This is a lot of book learning. This is other people's opinions. I've amalgamated. I'm making no biased choice on one or the other. This is just what I've read from my research into the subject. So
Okay.
I will ask you a question first. What is your opinion on the difference between a puzzle and a problem?
A puzzle is optional. Problem is less optional. It has effects on you if you don't figure it out. It could be very similar to a difference between a circumstance and a situation as well.
True. It's
That's
not what I was
what
going for, but it's a particularly good. That's a very interesting choice.
Oh, you cut out again.
I notice it turns off sometimes. Yeah. Either way, that's an interesting way to phrase it. Not what I was going for, but I'll take it. I would say that the difference is a puzzle is a known problem with a known solution. A puzzle is jigsaw pieces not in the correct order, or these things not aligned correctly, or you haven't activated. There's a known solution to a known problem. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
In contrast, a problem is a thing to overcome that is a known problem with an unknown solution. For example, get past the guards and get into the base. The solution might be unlock the door. It might be subdue the guards. It might be vault the wall. It might find some avenue under the wall. It doesn't matter. The problem is a difference is a puzzle versus a problem is a puzzle has a solution, while a problem is a thing to overcome that has potential infinite solutions relative to the tools you're given. Right?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Right. So from a game design perspective, you have to choose what kind of game you're making. If you're making a Tetris clone or some default ABC solution, it tends to be find the right solution. If you're making a BioShock or a Skyrim or whatever, it tends to be defeat the leader of this clan or overcome this problem or become strong enough to beat this particular character. And the solution might be overcome them with wits, bypass the problem entirely with stealth, or it might beat them with strength, right? Like your possible solution is not a directed goal. It is a problem, ergo there's infinite solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does that much at least make sense? There's a difference between a problem and a puzzle or a
Yes. I would say
Yeah,
so.
cool. Right. So that's the general guiding principle between the difference between what's considered an immersive sim versus a puzzle game or a problem game or whatever you want to call it, which is a puzzle game is set pieces that guide you from puzzle to puzzle. An immersive sim or an open world game, whatever you want to call it, is there is a world where I propose problems to you, and the sum total of solutions of tools you've acquired facilitate your ability to solve problems.
Yes, that makes sense, and it facilitates your ability to go out and chop some wood and come back.
Exactly, right? Like, doesn't matter. Hell, maybe throwing wood at an enemy is actively a problem solver, right? Like,
Yep.
you dazzle them by knocking them unconscious with wood. That could legitimately be a solution if needs be, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess that step one is just I forgot what the original premise here, but we're talking about that principle, and I wanted to highlight that concept that there is a fundamental difference between designing game puzzles versus designing game problems.
Yes.
So I guess from a design perspective, the problem I'm having is that it's very hard to design problems in a vacuum, because the answer to a problem is use the tools at your disposal to solve the problem you have. And if you haven't decided what the tools are, it's very hard to solve the problem, right? You don't know what the tools you have to solve the problem are. So, from a design perspective, it's probably a good idea to start prototyping those things earlier. So you've got a powerful suite of tools with your stat system, but from a game loop perspective, if you drop a player in an environment and you say you are locked in jail cell X, what is the problem and what is the solutions? And the problem is probably you are in a cell, you want to get out of cell, how do you solve it? The question becomes what level of tools do you provide to the player to provide problem solving techniques? Do you provide them a stealth way? Do you provide them a persuasion way? Do you provide them a physical force way relative to destroying the door or whatever, right? So I guess my point is it's hard to narratively describe and build a game until you know, first of all, what the suite of tools you're giving your player is.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying something? I can't hear you if you are.
Sorry, no, my connection's a bit rough. I guess my question to you, first of all, is you are building a stats system, right?
Yeah.
And the real world meta is you are like a mechanic who's aware of conceptual mechanical problems, and you're building a suite of tools to solve hypothetical mechanical problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that might be good, it might be valuable to have those tools, but from a cost benefit analysis or from a structural analysis, you're better off deciding, because you're like the narrative designer as well as the tool. You're actively choosing the problem the players come up against, and so rather than building hypothetical tools to solve hypothetical problems, you're probably better off structuring a mini narrative, which is there is X character with X problem. What tools would give them multiple avenues to solve this problem? Maybe I give them a way to stealthily knock out the guards versus maybe I give them some environmental puzzle that can knock out the guards, using hacking tools or something, versus maybe I can avoid the whole problem by using some agility tools that get me over environmental puzzles that I wouldn't otherwise get past.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, until you structure it from the perspective of there is problem, ergo there is possible solutions, it's hard to structure what the right answers are,
Yes.
So I guess my point is you got a really powerful suite of tools already, regardless of whether they're picture perfect with the edge cases and various stuff. But you're in a scenario now where you already have the ability to have very refined skills that certain characters could achieve. Certain characters could reach the exact same quote unquote problem and have different options to solve it relative to their hack skill versus their strength skill versus their whatever. And you won't, if you're on the right track yet, until you start testing yourself statistically beyond going further of plumossing the stat system. So I would say putting some rectangles in place and proposing like a guard at a door saying you can't come in, and testing persuasion skill versus strength skill versus vaulting over walls versus whatever, you're going to have a hard time figuring out the right choices because you're currently living in an abstract abyss of infinite possibility, which is cool, but like if everything's possible, nothing's valuable, right? And so you have to decide what is the problems, what are the valuable outcomes, and where the stats going to spend their time. So I think that you're kind of in this weird problem where you're trying to simultaneously make a valuable asset but a valuable tool for your game, and you need to pick a lane, right? You need to pick a, there are problems, I solve my own problems, and the upshot is it simultaneously makes a valuable asset, but that shouldn't be the goal, right? The goal should be a valuable asset comes out of what you're doing. You're not trying to hit the broad case as well as your case, you know?
Sure. I think that's what I am doing in the sense of not everything I add into Legend of the Stones is in the game modules. I add something to the game modules when it's vague enough that it could just be its own standalone thing. In some cases, it's as complex as the stats and skills, which is, or now just stats, which is the most complex of them thus far. Maybe inventory is fairly complex. Or as simple as the first person movement, which is literally just forward, back, camera movement with the mouse and some speed things. And it's like this, even in my README, I'm like, most of you won't need this, but I'm using it.
Okay, let me put it another way. If you had a friend who owned a restaurant and he was like, you know what, I just heard this amazing rice cooker that's selling for $3,000. And if I buy it now, it's super cheap. I'll get a lot of benefit from it, and I'll be able to make super cheap rice in house. It's like that sounds awesome. That sounds like a good value. You must clearly want it for your business. What percentage of your current orders use rice? It's like, oh, none of them. Just think it'd be a good idea to have rice at some stage in some of my orders. It's like, okay, like I don't disagree that the concept of wanting a rice cooker is a good idea, but you've got a literally zero case where it proves value in your product. And right now, for every stat, every value, every upgrade you're providing in your stat system, you have no case where it proves value. There's not a single scenario where if your game didn't have that stat, the game would cease to function. Like, see what I'm saying? Like there's nothing wrong with the features you're adding. It's just they're not tied to a conceptual value. And now this, it's hard to describe in an abstract vacuum, but if we got to the whole test-driven stuff, the whole philosophy of test-driven development is you pose a problem that will fail, and then you propose a solution that solves it, and you write the code to solve the problem. And so every line of code actively proves and solves a problem. Like you iteratively grow where every single line solves a problem. And the problem I'm getting at here is you're writing a lot of code where you have no problems to back up justification of the solutions you're providing.
There's problems in my head.
But prove it. Like start with posing a problem. Like even if you just had, there is an orc, he's blocking something, you can't get the chest till you kill the orc, suddenly you have a grounding device for I need to kill him to get that. And then every feature you add will actively solve in killing him to get that. Like so, you know?
Yeah. But the thing, one of the things is like, the reason why I started doing the game modules the way they are, where they like stats does stats, but it doesn't tell you anything about the stats. It just does basically it's a math system, is I'd want it to be used for anything like that. And so it could be used for that. It could be used for, crafting. It could be used for all sorts of different things. And I didn't want to say, there's a lot of assets out there that do, RPG builder and all these things that do solve problems and whatnot, but they also kind of pigeonhole you into solving the problems that way. And I didn't want that at all. And so, like, when I first started with Legend of the Stones, I was just writing the scripts, and I wasn't as good back then. This was, a while back. But writing the scripts and going as I needed. Oh, I need this now, so I'll add that. Oh, I need this now, I'll add that, and whatnot. And then refactor a little bit, but then add this and whatnot. And then I decided to redo from scratch, essentially, and restart, get back to where I was before, but start with the foundation of saying, okay, I need everything to be flexible and to not be hard-coding specifics.
See, I don't agree with any of that philosophically, but here's my very mean-sounding hot take on that. So, first question, how many stat-driven systems have you personally worked on that have made it to commercial products?
Well, none, of course. I mean,
okay,
one.
So
No.
Okay,
wait. One. The Barbarian.
Okay, so I guess my question to you is, how equipped do you think you are in estimating potential hypothetical edge cases which extend from a scenario that you're pursuing?
Well, I mean, I'll never get all edge cases. What I'm really doing is building a system that works for me in a way that would work for lots of other things too.
But again, right, that proves my point. How do you know your systems work for you if you're building the system before you pose yourself problems to solve? You're building a system with no problems to base against, and then when you're done, you hope it solves your problems, and then you hope it solves hypothetically other people.
Well,
when instead, if you start with the problem and then solve the problems in retrospect, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first problem is I need to create my characters, and to do that, I need stats. And so I need to build a stat system.
But again, I would disagree. I would say to test the principles of a character with stats, you would need to propose what's called a use case, which is, I am character X. I have entered the fucking water zone or the ice zone. I am now cold, so my ability to withstand heat is under threat, and so my stats go down relative to the temperature of the area, ergo my combat ability is weakened. Until there is a practical example of a problem with which your set of stats can simultaneously facilitate and then the gameplay will prove, adding infinite ability is kind of, hey, this guy asked us to build a house. We're just going to start building walls. And I mean, he wants a bunch of rooms. Some are bedrooms, some are kitchens. I don't know which are which, but like, he wants rooms. So I'm just going to start building walls. And eventually some of them will line up correctly to what he wants. Because I mean, how can you not want walls in your house, right? It's not a wrong idea to build walls. The problem is that you're presuming these walls are the right walls for the right problems because you've never posed the. You're starting with the presumption that rooms need walls, ergo I'll build rooms with walls. And you don't start with, how do I build the walls relative to the requirements of each room? Which ones need plumbing, which ones need electronics, right? And so with your system, you're saying, I built a system that supports X level of complexity, but you've not said, I have an actual problem and I'm choosing to build those features into this system,
Well, I guess I don't see it the same way. I see the requirement of needing stats to be the problem that I solved. The fact that I needed a system that would mean I can add new weapons later and not have to worry about redoing all the other scripts because I added a new weapon that has a new attribute to it, Uh, and so I wanted a system that would just support the ability for me to add things later and not have to redo everything.
So I know I'm going to have a hard time convincing you of this. So all I can do is appeal to my personal experience. So let me give you an example of good intention gone wrong and see if it rings true. So can you still hear me? I switched between push to talk and
I can still hear
always
you.
on.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So this is literally not a meme, a literal project and a literal problem I worked on. I had a client come to me and they had worked with a previous developer and contractor for 5 months. So again, some other company, they had some requirement, they worked with a developer for 5 months and they paid them a 5-month salary. And to be blunt, someone like me solving your problem isn't cheap. So 5 months of that is not cheap. And they basically said to us, this guy was smart, he knew what he was doing, and he built a smart system. And after a bit of back and forth, we asked them what happened. They said, right, we are building a poor man's version of filters on like Instagram or something. You take photos and we show some fancy overlaid fireworks and like a an audience that's like clapping at your concert or whatever, right? And the developer who worked on that system was a smart guy who, quite frankly, was smarter than me at that shader slash particle stuff. And he built a from scratch particle system. He spent 2 months building this super performant, GPU driven, pool based, hyper amazing particle system. And it was super performant, amazing, did everything it needed to, up to the basic requirements. And then the developers of the actual app said, yeah, can we have fireworks in 3 colors? He said, no, it doesn't do that. It's like really performant and cached, and you can only pick one color at the start and whatever. It's like, yeah, but that's not what we need. That's not what we paid you for. And this went on back and forth where he was building a bespoke from scratch, really performant solution. Then this eventually they crapped out, didn't work out, and they came to us. And they said, look, we just need this thing. We Googled the asset store, picked 2 assets, wrapped some code in it, and built a really basic, not performant solution that hit every check mark their clients asked for. It had fireworks of different colors and different solutions, and they could swap it out and they could pick different prefabs, and they were delighted. And for us, it was like 2 weeks' work. Google asset or just search asset store, pick some assets, wrap some code around it, and we got paid as much as the guy who like sweat, blood, and tears built from scratch an entire brand new GPU-based particle system. But the truth is, he was building an ego-driven, trying to prove that he could do it better than actually listening to the client. Now, to cycle it all the way back, it's a different story when you are both simultaneously your client and the developer. It's not the same scenario. But what I'm trying to get at here is it's very easy to fall into the trap of siphoning yourself off into 2 roles. One role is the guy who wants to make the game, and one is the developer who makes the stuff. And it's easy to see yourself in these 2 roles and treat yourself differently. And my point is, if it wasn't you by your dime paying for this by your own time, but if it was financially every week you had to hand over your own rates to somebody to develop your game at the time you're spending, you might raise an eyebrow at how much time you are developing, building systems that hypothetically, potentially, in scenarios which might hypothetically show up, add value, potentially. As opposed to you proposing an actual game scenario and solving that scenario.
But see, that's the thing. I think I am doing that because I don't produce any game module until I get to the point where I need something, you know? Like,
you say that, but you've got this whole stat system, and can you tell me a 5-minute game narrative which requires multiple stats changing right now in your experience?
Yes. I equipped a sword and my stats changed, or I cast a spell and it has a modification on me and now my stats change because of that modification.
But that's not gameplay. That's statistics, right? And this is the philosophy.
Cast a poison spell.
No, but again, this is again. I can't stress this enough. This is coming from somebody who was previously in your corner. I was a
Yeah.
coder. I was a guy who liked linear, clinical, A plus B equals C. I worked through it, but it wasn't until I spent like 2 years researching game dev that I realized there is a chasm of difference between systemic understanding and gameplay. What the problem is, you are like miles deep into your own systems and you see it as a sequence of numerical and mechanical problems of there is this number, it should be this number after this amount of percentage rolls where this percentage value, but this will eventually somehow dot profit equals gameplay, but you're so involved in the philosophy of game design, you're forgetting that why are you even building the stat system? Why does it exist? Well, to make the game better. If the game isn't good, the stat system's not worth it, right? And so all of the stats and systems and numbers and whatever only exist to serve the benefit of making the game good, right? If someone said to you, I could add this stat, it would make the game worse, you would obviously say no, right? You would obviously not add the thing that makes the game worse. Ergo, the flow of information is stats exist to serve gameplay. And the problem is you are building stat systems and then at some point hoping to tie them into a game flow. Now you understand, oh yeah, no, these numbers they'll represent health and stat and shield. But the thing is, you haven't proven that because you're building the stats in isolation. And my point is, if you were starting your game and going, I have character has health, character has shield, I walk up, goblin hits me, removes health, you don't need a stat system for that. You need a float value. And at some point, that float value is not enough. And so you would scale the float value higher and go, well, wouldn't it be nice if the float value scaled relative to my armor value? And so you will have an easier time solving problems and knowing the answer to questions when they're not hypothetical. Wouldn't it be nice if X, or should I do X to solve Y? If you instead propose yourself a problem, which is this particular goblin attacked to me, he did 50 damage, my armor is 20, it should have some random value or it should have some whatever. Your solutions in code directly resolve in solving problems. And so your code starts to build and grow, not in hypotheticals, not in potential features. Every single line of code directly solves a problem as proven by the game flow. So my point is, you are working in a scenario where you're building the ultimate test bench, but then you are hoping to apply it to a hypothetical game. When if your goal is to make a game, you should start with the game, reach a limitation to what the game could do, pause, and go back and add to the systems the features the game needs, and rinse and repeat. So there's never this kind of disconnect. It's always every feature added to your system directly correlates to, I wanted to swing my sword, but his armor value wasn't being taken into account. My system needs to take armor values into account, right? Every single line should directly correlate to a gameplay mechanic as you go. That way, you never have that disconnect of should I do it X way or Y way.
It's interesting. I feel like I agree with you, but somehow it sounds like I'm not agreeing with you. In the sense of I got my game to a point where I was swinging swords and taking damage, and that's when I realized, shit, I did it wrong. The game needs to do something, or rather the code needs to do something that it can't do now, and I needed to go back and redo it. But I also think you were talking about test-driven development, and you were trying to convince me to do that. And so I'm wondering, what is the thing you would like to see me do?
So I guess my disconnect here is that every time that you sit down to work on a system, you are building a better stat system. But better is an abstract term that leads to that if you don't have a North Star, just means more features. Because better for game X is not the same as better for game Y, right? It just means better ... And I guess my point is that, and this is one of those, and this is kind of weird to say, but this is about as much of a compliment as I could give in a very abstract way. You're more of a programmer than you realize, because what you've done is you've retreated to the comfortable question of solving mathematical problems. It is infinitely harder to pose a hypothetical problem of, there is a problem, how do I solve the problem, as per my previous discussion of a problem being a infinite solutioned version of a thing to overcome versus a puzzle. And in your original game, you probably started with, I have sword hits thing, doesn't do what I want, and you started adding features until you hit the point where it started to become a mess, spaghetti-wise, and you had that anxiety of, I've probably done this wrong. Suddenly, every new problem or issue I want to add is this exhausting psychological hacking new features. And so rather than doing it that way, you retreat to the complete opposite of the spectrum, which is, there is no game, there is numbers. And I can keep adding various ways to tweak the numbers. Randomizers, stats, aggregators, composites, experience, upgrades. All of this is quote unquote psychologically safe because you're not testing it. You're not battle hardening it against gameplay. You're just in an environment where, in a hypothetical world where there's a character with a number, and hypothetically they have environment, and hypothetically the health goes up 20%, or the experience goes up 50, hypothetically the health goes up this amount, it's very easy to test and prove yourself right because none of this directly correlates to gameplay. And the reason I'm being particularly hard on this premise is there's a lot of really good games out there who wasted years of development where they just assumed they were right in their core premise. They assumed it was fun, they assumed it was good, they assumed the numbers were right. And they ended up having to go and reinvent the wheel. And the kind of higher level philosophy of all of this, regardless of game or regardless of stats, is you know you're onto something when people are playing your game and forgetting they're playing the game.
Sure.
And the kind of the general idea is if you give someone a controller and they stop critiquing it because they're too busy actually having fun, you know you're onto a winner, one way or another. And the problem with numeric-based games, whether you're playing RPGs or whatever else, is it's very easy to convince yourself to not think about the player and just make sure that if I have the numbers and the systems in place, the game will work itself out in the end. But the numbers aren't the hard part. The flow and the gameplay is the hard part. And the general point is that you kind of know the feel you want. And again, you and I both know, because we've done this enough times, putting two characters in a space and doing a collision detection and subtracting a number from another, it's not a lot of code. It's pretty straightforward to do the fundamentals of what the core loop from a player perspective is. All of the really powerful but complicated weight-based driven loot drop stuff is really awesome, but it's not what's going to make your game or not, right? That's the nice flourish of what makes it between good and great. It's not what makes it nothing to playable. And
Well,
so,
sure.
right? Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
But to that point, I know the game's going to have chests with loot in it. I know that I want the loot to be randomized. I don't want it to be the same every time. And I know I want the player's stats to be able to affect that in ways that the player might not realize. That's why I always talk about the luck value. And so when I, go about saying, okay, well, it's time to add a loot box. I've got a chest. I've got the ability to open it. That's, if you remember before this whole refactor thing, I was able to run around and had the portraits and click on the box and open it. And I know I need these features. I know that, what goes in the box. I don't know what the player is going to find enjoyable yet. I imagine swords and other goodies and crafting things that you find in the box would be fun to find, and quest items, of course. And perhaps some traps. But I know I need these systems, and so I figured, well, let me build those systems now, because I could do like a vertical slice almost, where I hard code some stuff and hard code some other stuff, and then say, hey, players, is this fun? But I know it's going to be in there. Like, this isn't one of those things where should I have chests in the game or not? Of course I should have chests in the game. And it's not really an open question for me whether or not this part of that is going to be in the game. It's going to be in the game. And I do need the ability to randomize what's in the game. And it needs to work with this inventory style because this is the inventory style I'm going with. Now, I might change that later, of course. But today, this is the inventory style I'm going with. And so it needs to act this way. You know what I mean?
I fully understand your reasoning. I just fundamentally at a core level disagree. And the only reason I disagree is because I previously was a dev building a project, and at some point in my career I became a project manager building a project. And my understanding vastly changed when I started to see things as a cost-benefit analysis. And I look at this as, if you're being brutally honest with yourself, if you were bankrolling your own project, not in just money, but in time, and you stepped back and you tried to, if you put a dot marker on the calendar, and you put a dot marker on the calendar 2 months later, and you asked yourself, what can the game do that it couldn't do before, that it can now? And I don't want philosophical hypothetical potentials. I want you to run a sequence, move the character in the game world, do a thing it could do, now do a thing it can do that it couldn't have done previously. You'd start to have problems doing that. You could probably hack together.
You saw that the game doesn't work right now.
No, but my point is, this isn't just the game that you are making. This is what happens at Enterprise. I've literally managed teams of 60 people, and this happens. This isn't you. This is just what happens. Because everybody has this hypothetical, no, we all know what we're going for. I don't need to prove it works. I just need to keep moving towards the abstract hypothetical goal. And if everybody of the 60 people all have the same sentiment of, I don't need to prove it works, I just need to keep vaguely moving in the right vague direction. We all know it's a bit janky right now. We'll get there eventually. You end up with a scenario where everything is always hypothetical. Nothing ever actively proves it works. And this isn't obnoxious or like malicious. It's entirely, everyone means well. Everyone's trying to move forward towards the same goal. But the problem is, what people don't realize is goals change. And you don't know if your game is good / fun / interesting or whatever until it's in a player's hands. At the end of the day, you could spend 2 years building the best inventory system ever. But the fact of the matter is, if 5 minutes of gameplay isn't fun for a player, you've wasted your time. I think we both agree on that, right? Like, the goal is a fun game, regardless of everything else.
I do have a side quest, though. My side quest is to make money on the asset store and to have a non-art option for making money on the asset store. So, I am biased towards making the game modules for that reason.
But I would, again, purely from a perspective of project manager, I'd stamp my feet and say, I don't buy that. For one reason only, which is we've all seen a million asset store assets, and I think you more than anyone else can like agree with me that there's a lot of assets out there with a load of features that just don't sell. Why the fuck those features matter? They're just that like, we've got 10
earlier today, literally while I was playing a New World, and I was thinking about Thomas Brush and how he keeps doing these I remade this but it's 2D whatever things. I get what he's doing, you know?
That's the very smart marketing play.
Is say, hey, here's the game modules. I remade New World with the game modules. I remade this, but just take a tiny slice of those games and say, this is how I remade the crafting system with the game modules. This is how I redid Mario's Jump. Not Mario's Jump, whatever it might be. Fill in the blank. Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, you're preaching to the choir here, because, like, literally, I did this with BioShock, right? I'm sure I've showed you my little consumable demo. All right, here, let me really consider it in case you haven't seen it.
I don't think I've seen it.
Let's go to general. Here, I'm going to paste it in general. Right. This is me over literally a weekend deciding I wanted to build something. I was watching some gameplay of Bioshock and said, I want that. I'm just going to steal Bioshock meets like Skyrim. You're not going to build their basic health / stats / equipping thing.
This is definitely more robust than the last version I saw.
Yeah. Like, I'll be honest, like, it's not. I'm not doing much here. It's a raycast plus increasing a number and doing some do-tween animations. But the general idea is that, per your metaphor, I could slap I did Skyrim in Unity, whatever, right? Like I could do that if I wanted to, and literally like screenshot side by side Bioshock and do the same systems or whatever. And I agree. I'm not saying that's a bad solution at all, and I'm 100% on board for multiple avenues of whatever you're making. But my point is, this demo I did here is probably a better sales pitch than here is my health system with 50 ways to integrate with it, right? Like, it's very clearly, yeah. And this took me a week, and it was me doing it in the way I'm describing, which is, I wish I could pick things up. I wish the things I picked up affected the health bar. I wish the health bar visually indicated that the health changed relative to what I picked up. I wish I could pick up currency. I wish the currency I picked up could indicate that I collected currency. Yes. And each thing was a problem plus a solution. I proposed a thing I wish I had, and I proposed and I grew it from a perspective of that angle. And I'm not saying anything you're doing is wrong. I'm saying that you are proposing solutions without problems. You are saying these will be solutions, problems I will hypothetically have, but you will have a better time both selling it philosophically and also proving it to yourself and designing them if you start with, I walk up to chest, I want to pick the chest up, I want to not be able to equip it because the chest is under leveled, I want to go to a blacksmith and level up whatever. Like, if you propose what's called a use case of a narrative gameplay loop, and then you design systems that actively solve the loop, your game will constantly grow, not just systemically, but mechanically, because you'll actively be building systems that will grow your game. Because I know you agree with me, but it's just a matter of, it's that like tweaked philosophy of, you're not wrong for constantly growing your systems. It's just from someone who has managed teams of lots of people and tried to keep them in line, my argument to you is that it's very easy to get pigeonholed into, I know this will be valuable, ... at some stage, I will keep building it until it proves its worth, versus prove to yourself at every step that every step is valuable by seeing a problem and solving your own problem. And this isn't just some hypothetical better business approach. You will genuinely feel better because every week you'll be able to say to somebody, my game doesn't X, and at the end of the week, my game does X. And your game will objectively, like fucking provably, with each GIF, be more mechanically robust, which right now you can't prove. And you may still be adding value, but you're adding value in the realm of hypotheticals. And what I'm saying is that if you start by, at the start of each week, I wish I could equip a fucking crystal into my sword, which made my sword more powerful, you're not building a hypothetical system. You are literally saying, this is a game feature I want to exist, and you are manifesting that into existence. And that is not just beneficial for you as a direction. It both edifies the systems you're making are good because they actively solve problems, but they also make you feel better because your game is actively more playable than it was the previous week. So if you don't do it that way and you do it systemically, you have to hope for a hypothetical time at some stage in the future where you take a bunch of systems and hypothetically prove the time was worth putting in. And I don't disagree with you that it probably is. I agree that time is valuable and those systems are used, but you are betting on a hypothetical point you can prove that, as opposed to just moving in steps which actively prove it each step of the way.
So I think there's some... So first of all, it would take me longer to make what you're showing here than it took you to make this, right? So there's that. Like, it takes me longer to make a vertical slice than it would another person, perhaps. And so there's that. But then in my head, what I'm looking at is thinking, okay, well, I want to be able to show the player casting magic spells. I can't wait to get back to those goblins running around that I had working a year and a half ago, but I had to restart from scratch because there were some foundational issues that needed to be solved and whatnot. But I can't wait to get back there because that does look cooler and is the fun part and is fun to test and fun to show and fun to discuss the mechanics and see what other people like. But I still need that foundational bit that I know is going to be there regardless of the rest. And that's what I'm building right now. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, I know it's going to be there. So I have to do it either way.
See, I've been you in this argument, and I need to go for a quick bathroom break. But I'm going to shut this down really quick because I've been you giving this argument to somebody else. So I'll come back in a sec. You can okay. Give me like a minute or two.
Mute while you're in there. So for those of you who are listening, you can come to the Discord here, join the Hangout voice channel. And if you'd like to join the discussion, feel free.
So I have something important. Since Jason's gone, my $200 pepper mill just shipped.
Whoa. Like a real life $200 nice pepper mill to grind pepper?
Yes, I'm very happy.
Why is it $200?
It's a Kickstarter thing, but it looks like it's going to be better than any I have, so...
And you like pepper?
I do like pepper.
You
really should listen to Jason. He knows what he's talking about here. Building things because you might want them someday is the path to madness. You'll never get to making your project if you go that way.
Yeah, but I think what I'm confused here is I feel like it's not that I might want this, I do want this. And that's why I started building it, because I realized, shit, I want something. I need to build that.
But if you haven't built the things that need it yet, you're not completely sure what you need or want.
But then that's why I go back to thinking, but I did build those things. And that's how I realized, shit, I needed something that I didn't have. So, I think there's something that I'm missing here that is not, that I'm just, somehow I'm not hearing it the way that it's meant to be heard or something, because I keep hearing stuff that I'm like, but I did do that. That did happen. I do need this. I did realize I need this before. I did build a version that worked, but didn't do it right, so I need to go back. So I'm not
sure.
Let's
let's rewind this back and try. Like this is my best kind of attempt at giving the because again I cannot stress enough. I have been where you are. I have been the person giving fucking verbatim arguments for what you're describing, and you're not wrong at any perspective you're saying. It's the old men and the elephant problem. I don't know if anyone's heard this before, but if you put old men around an elephant and say, what does an elephant look like? Some will say, oh, it's hard and solid and has a pointy shape at the end. Others will say it's long and sleek and has a fluffy end to it, because each one is seeing a tail or a tusk or something. They do not 100% different perspective, and they're not wrong. None of them are wrong. They just are limited in what they're seeing. And I have been in a privileged position to be a hard and fast, stamp my feet in the ground, kind of asshole of a self-assertive developer. I have also been a project manager. I've also been the whole cycle. And so I just have a luxuried position of seeing different angles. And I find that from my experience, solo developers see themselves in one role and forget to see themselves as another. If you were bankrolling yourself and imagining a literal pocket with money pouring out of it into a dustbin every time that you make a decision, you would have a very fucking different perspective of how you spend your time than it's just my time. I mean, whatever, I can spend it whenever I want. It's not a big deal. It's like, no, if you were paying someone hundreds to do the same things you're doing, it would be a very different metaphor than I spent a few hours doing this. Like you hand wave away your own time because it's your time. You don't evaluate your time as a commodity you're spending. But I don't want to get into that detail. What I want to say is you have to look at it more from the perspective of what your goals are and what you're doing to achieve those goals. And the problem with game developers is it's very easy to see yourself as somebody just noodling around and I hope I get to a result. And if we flip the script and I said to you, and like this may sound comedically over the top, but it's hopefully getting to the goal, is you are a person who wants to make a salad. So that's your goal right now. It's your money and time is being spent on making a salad. And you turn to me and say, right, we need to make a salad. I'm like, fucking, I'm on it, chief. We're going to make ourselves a salad. Just give me a few months. It's like, what?
Yeah, because
well,
you
I
need
have
to
to
grow
build
the tomatoes.
Exactly. I have to build the farm first. Like, I'm not going to build a salad without building a farm, right? It's like, well, wait, do we need a salad or do we need a farm? And it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I know a good salad requires these ingredients and a good, like, I can't trust that other people will do it. And honestly, realistically, learning how to build the pipeline from their farm to ours will probably take more time than building our own. And like, you can build an infinite amount of justification for what it is. And some of it's true, some of it's not, some of it's sort of hyperbole. But the truth is, what you're doing is you've made a decision that you want to make the farm and you're justifying the reasons why you're doing it. But you're kind of hand waving away the goal. But if it was your money coming out of your pocket with every 30 seconds spent on tick, 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 do I build a farm or do I buy the farm in a box that does it for me? You'd have a very fucking different opinion if you actively saw it as like visible money ticking out of your account every time you made one of these research decisions. And I'm not going to say the answer is always buy assets ever. If anything, you're more of an asset advocate than I am. But I would say there's a difference between, like, if you want to buy an asset, good. If you want to build an asset, good. But if you are building an asset, you'd fucking better, every line of code you write, you should be able to point to a problem in your requirements document that line of code solved. Otherwise, why didn't you use an asset? And the truth is, right now, you are building a hypothetical stat system for a hypothetical game. Now, a lot of those systems will/should be used in your game, but my point is you will have a far better time justifying both to yourself and to your audience if you start with the build a game where I walk up to a thing and I kill a character and, oh, I didn't get experience. Why not? Because my game doesn't have experience. Let's build experience. And you complete that loop, a number ticks up, and then you move on. And then you say, I go to a seller and my experience isn't impacting my potion build rate. Maybe it should. But then you build it. And every single thing...
I get that, but I'm the disconnect here. I'm not sure what it is, but there's... Like, I specifically wanted the stat system to not say this is for experience and this is for whatever it might be. And, there was a discussion, I don't know if you were around, the other night there was a discussion, I was talking about the luck, using luck as the example in the loot box. And I forget, who was it you, William? Somebody was talking about, oh, well, you should put luck in there and people can choose not to use it. But it's the opposite that I want to go with. I want luck to be a potentially used there, but not something that people see. They can add luck, but they don't have to add luck. They can add something else. I don't know what people are going to do.
Yeah, I was the one saying that. I think you should have luck there for people that want to use it. I think that's such a common expected thing that people will be shocked if there isn't luck just built in that they can click on.
Yeah.
But you don't have to enable it by default.
I guess the reason why I didn't use an asset from the asset store is because each one did stuff that I didn't want it to do. And in order to get the game I wanted, I would have to change their code to do something that they didn't intend, or to change the way they intended to do something. And I thought to myself, well, if what I would prefer is an asset that would work for this system, but doesn't have to work for any system. Like, you don't have to do this. You can, but you don't have to. You could do something else entirely as well. And was the reason why I decided to do it this way. But also, I like it better because it means that in the future, when inevitably I add something that I have no idea about today, it will be a lot easier to add that without having to go back and realize that a bunch of the other things I did kind of screwed me over, because now I have to redo a bunch of other systems that are all spaghettied together, which is probably what would have happened because I know myself as a coder enough. I don't know. I think.
I mean, I know it goes entirely against my entire diatribe for the last few months, but here's my hot take. I don't even care if your code is the spaghettiest spaghetti to every spaghetti. Now, don't quote me too hard on that. I don't want to see that clipped because it's not something I want to propagate as a rule.
It's recorded.
But I will say, truth be told, if there's like me split into 5 different personas, the me who cares about code quality and cleanliness and all that stuff is one of the least important philosophical me's to me.
Yeah.
Like, if I was to split them all up, the truth is, if I'm being really, really particular, the reason we write software is because we want something to exist that doesn't exist. That's step one. There is a hypothetical game that doesn't exist that we wish did. And so the hypothetical best earnest truth is the thing that gets us closer to that goal. So every time we get closer to the hypothetical thing we wish existed, we're doing a good job. And the truth is, it's very, very easy to put your goal on a pedestal and spend your time working on philosophical ideals that don't forward that goal. And this is purely 100% as somebody who spent hundreds of hours working on systems that they never released because they weren't quite right or quite good enough or quite exactly what they should have been. And I look at this having now been on the other side of the coin from a business perspective and went, it's almost easier if someone's paying the bills, because there's no hypothetical it's good enough when it's good enough. There is I have put X money in, it needs to provide X value out. It's actually easier when you can linearly say, no, we're at the point now where we're wasting time. If it was done in 2 months, it would have been a net profit. If we do it in 4 months, it will break even. If we do it in 6 months, it's a waste of everyone's time. Then suddenly it becomes a lot easier to do the numbers. And I have no other way to say it than I know you feel this because we've all been there. There has to be a point you're working on your project and you've looked at it and you've had that disparity and the kind of sadness of, I have spent weeks, if not months, on this system and I can't play it any further. There's not another biome. There's not another set of enemies. There's not another quest. Now, you know at your heart of hearts that the systems you have built allow for X, Y, and Z, or will support 1, 2, and 3, or will enable A, B, and C. But there has to be a point you stop and, honest with yourself, go, if I was to cost benefit, 3 months equals less than 30 seconds of additional gameplay. There's moments you just feel, well, that kind of sucks. That kind of feels like there's a disparity here. If I've spent this much time and I cannot point at to somebody who's not a gamer and say, play my game longer than you could have.
I want people to play my game, yes, and I want to be able to show cool GIFs and whatnot. But I also know that if I don't do this right from the ground, it will never get done. The game won't get finished. It needs to be done right from the start. So that was why my goal still is to get most of the main logic of the game, the things you can do, working in basically 2 different scenes where you can do quests, you can talk to people, you can fight the bad guys, you can die, you can respawn, you can do all the stuff before I start building what is inevitably going to be 100 bad guys and dozens and dozens and dozens of quests and NPCs and all this other extremely complicated stuff that I know for a fact I would screw myself over if I tried to go straight into that without having the foundation.
See, you say that, but here's the thing. Your previous game was to some degree, quote unquote, done. And I ask you, was it perfect? And I think you'd pretty pretty confidently say no.
Are we talking about the
And
barbarian?
so, yes, and so you would say, provably, the barbarian was done to some degree, but was not perfect. So we can
Correct.
at least acknowledge there is zero relationship between done and perfect, right? There's no relationship whatsoever.
Yeah.
Things can be done, but not perfect, or vice versa. And so I would argue, based on a very famous quote, which says, perfect is the enemy of good, which is, that's a Voltaire quote. But the idea is that, and I really, I cannot stress this enough. This is me internalizing a personal failure that took me years to learn. I am more than you the kind of person to say, this isn't good enough, so it's not worth doing, and I'll keep procrastinating with new features. And it took me a long time to learn that that's not that it feels like a moral good. You sound like you're saying, no, I want this to be good enough to release, and therefore I am doing a good thing. I am engaging in trying to make a better product. But what you're actually doing is you're saving yourself the fear and doubt of releasing something that might be critiqued, when what's actually better for you is to release the thing that's less good. And if problems come up, you iterate and resolve the problems. Because it's so weird until you actually internalize it as a concept. Imagine this. Imagine you're trying to deliver something to somebody that solves their problem. And you hand them a thing and they say, this doesn't solve our problem. It should do X. And you're like, oh, I'll take it back. I'll make it do X. I'll give it back to you. Oh, it's pretty good. It does X now. It doesn't do Y. And so, okay, it does Y now. By design, collaboration leads to the most accurate resolving of the problem. If you send someone out to a cave to work for 6 months on the quote-unquote perfect system, their only information is the input they think they understand vaguely from the vague requirements. So if you think about it even remotely for a split second, practically, how do you build the best product? You do it in collaboration with the people who will use the product. You are only going to know if it's right if the people actively enjoy using it. And so the idea is, I won't release it till it's perfect, is kind of hilarious in retrospect, because you're basically saying, I'll keep working on it till it meets some hypothetical goal that nobody other than me has vetted, and then I will have it actually vetted against other people who actively want to use it.
I think I never said perfect, first of all. And
you did actually. I can literally quote you, but it's fine. All right, we'll skip on.
First, I have released the game modules, and I have been getting feedback on that. So things are released in this ecosystem that exists. I do fully realize that if I was not also releasing game modules, then I might do this game slightly differently, although it would take me just as long. And I would go back as many times as I've been going back. And in the development of the Barbarian, it took me 2.5 years to make that. It should have taken me 6 months, but I had to redo it like 3 or 4 times. I know the enemy script I redid at least 5 times because I kept realizing that I did it wrong. So I'm trying to avoid a lot of that down the line. I'm also trying to release a product that other people can use in many, many, many different projects. And so that's why I'm doing it the way it is. I fully agree, though. I can't wait to get to the part that is fun to see and fun to play a demo of. I just don't want to spend my time making a demo that I know is going to have to be redone.
Right, but that's my argument, right? It's like, do you see third part, step out of your own game and look at the argument that you've just made, which is, I don't want to make a game / environment that has to change because my systems aren't right. Right, that's kind of the philosophy of what you're saying. I haven't figured out the systems yet, so I don't want to make a prototype environment that don't match the systems. And
I will want to make a prototype environment when I know that I'm going to have to redo the systems. Basically make prototype systems that I know I'm going to just redo from anyways.
Right, but do you not see how it should be the other way around? You should be building a game experience and then building systems that support the experience. And if
Yeah.
the experience changes, the gameplay systems would change.
So
The idea that you were choosing not to build the gameplay until the systems are right is such a weirdly backwards approach to that problem. You know?
I am building the gameplay. That's the whole point of this, is to build the entire gameplay in a 2-scene thing before I build the game itself. So that,
right, but
it's
when you say that,
yeah,
what does it do this week that it didn't do last week?
Well, that's an unfair question, because
why is it an unfair question? You were a game developer building a game. You spent weeks on it. Every week there should be something in the game that wasn't in the game last week. Is that an unfair proposition?
Because I've been spending the last few weeks redoing the system and making it better. Now, not trying to be coy, but based on your suggestion, which was right, by the way. But also, I only get a few hours a week to do this, so it takes me longer to do it. But if you asked me what is the difference between the game now and the game a year ago, I will tell you that a year ago the game had some actions going on, but technically would not have been something I could build on. Now I have a game foundation that allows me to build the game faster and easier and with less stress, while also making some money on the side, helping other people make their games.
I mean, we're kind of circling at this stage, so I don't want to belabor the point, but I will say I don't disagree with your philosophy. What I will say is that from my personal experience, which again is as limited as anybody else's, is that I have been and seen the exact argument you're making. And it's not wrong, but it's exclusively from the perspective of seeing yourself as a code writer. There are problems, I will write code to solve problems. And it's not until later on that you start to look at yourself as a cog in your own wheel. If you put yourself as a producer and you start to hypothetically allot money to yourself and you start paying yourself for development, the truth is you'll start to realize you're kind of faffing about. You as a developer is not bang for the buck providing the value that you as a producer would want. And you, more than anybody else I've talked to about this, should be aware of this as someone who's hired multiple people. There are people who have all the best. Yeah, there are a lot of people who have really good intentions, but they just sort of meander a bit, and they really mean the best, but they're just not worth it financially, you know? Yeah, and if you're being brutally honest with yourself, there is mechanics the game should have. And you know, if you're being brutally honest with yourself, the time it would take to go from there is a health bar, it does things, it subtracts health, it's really a day, right? Like, you know, each one of these minutiae is a day or a couple days or whatever. Now, you talking to yourself in this hypothetical scenario would go, no, you don't understand. I'm not just writing the code to do it, I'm writing the system to support it. That's a really good philosophical argument, but at the same time, you as the payroll person will say, okay, let me ask you philosophically the difference between you hiring yourself to build a system versus you hiring yourself to write the code I actually need. Here's the money. What's the difference? You'd have a really hard time to say, well, philosophically, hypothetically, in the future, it'll hypothetically be cheaper. Like, that's a really hard stance to take. Because I've been that guy. I have been the person trying to sell to a project manager. No, you don't understand. We can hack it in quick. It'll be done, but it's not worth your time versus the long form version. And they've said to me, but the client wants X. Your argument of the right way is Y only makes sense if the goal is to write good quality software. That's not the goal. The goal is to make a game. And you're like, no, you don't understand. Writing good quality software makes a better game. It's like, no, I understand that argument.
I think my goal is to make a game, but my goal is also to make the asset that I wish existed, so I didn't have to make it. Like, I want to buy an asset to make this easier, but the asset I want to buy doesn't exist, so I'm gonna make it. That's also a goal. There are two goals, and that one is the easier thing to do, and it also serves the purpose of making the game.
Okay, but then again, here's my smug response to that. If you are making an asset, and again, this is I cannot stress this enough. This isn't some hypothetical thought experiment. I have done this.
Yeah.
I have been this guy in this project. I have worked on a system where somebody said to me it needs to do X. And they said, okay, cool, we need X. And I said, no, I'm putting together a system that does X, Y, and Z. Why? Because it's a trivial amount of extra work to go from X to X and Y and Z, and the infinite possibility later makes it more usable. It's like, cool. Who's the guy who wants Y? I'm like, well, anybody who wants Y. It's like, no, point in the office to the guy who wants Y. Well, nobody right now. Okay, cool. So what you're saying is I am paying you to make a system for a person we haven't hired that might someday want Y. It's like, no, you don't understand. It's much cleaner and easier to work with if I do it the Y way. Okay, cool. But who's bankrolling this? Oh, you are. Okay, fine. But why? Well, because you don't understand. If somebody joins the team later and they want Y, say, okay, who wants Y? No, I've told you. It doesn't. And it's a circular argument again. And
Except
it's
that
kind of comical. I played that role,
I know people want this. People buy this stuff all the time.
Okay, but then here's my argument to you, which you're going to balk at too. Where is your demo scene where you've done Y, where you've proven that it works as a Y, and released that as a demo scene?
You don't like the
if you're telling me... No, but I'm saying if you're telling me that the reason you're not just doing X, but you're doing X, Y, and Z, is there are people who want Y and Z that you're not making, but that might be beneficial, then prove it. Because you have to dog food your own systems. Build at least a demo scene that's a Y, prove that it works as a Y, and release it as something someone can use as a Y. But you're saying, I'm building X for me, I presume people want a Y and a Z that looks like this, I'll build potential features for Y and Z because hypothetically this potential person might want Y and Z. No, there are people out there who do, but you can't know this. And okay, here's I'm going to cycle back a bit. I worked in VR, and this is the best I can give for a metaphor for this. I did VR for like 6 years, and I have met people who have best intentions who are really into VR. And if you take a step back and go, VR, wow, okay. Virtual reality allows you to have 6 degrees of freedom. And from data perspectives, take spreadsheets, your classic 2D spreadsheets. Logistically, logically, if I could take a 2D spreadsheet and somehow explode it into 6 degrees of freedom, there's got to be value there, right? There's got to be a way to engage with 2D data in a 6 degree of freedom way by having multiple avenues of hypothetical, exponential, whatever, that adds more value, that speeds up the data flow of somebody who works in 2D. That's got to be beneficial, right? So I knew people who walked up and met financial advisors and said, you work in Excel. Your job is in Excel 24/7 to work in 2D spreadsheets. We are going to offer you the ability to take your spreadsheets and explode it into fucking 3 dimensions and do all this cool stuff and metaphorically split it up into... We can literally have a tree with birds around it. Each bird represents a data point, and we can metaphorically represent it. We can make your life 10 times easier by taking this hard, boring numerical data and expressing it in a digital virtual environment. And they said, okay, that's cool, but like, my job is a series of shortcuts on a spreadsheet that I have mastered over 6 years of repetition. Do you honestly think you, who has never done my job, can walk in off the fucking street and tell me how my job can be optimized by adding another dimension? And that really struck me as, oh shit, maybe I should actually see it, not from the perspective of, hey, you're doing your job inefficiently, ... I assume. Here's me providing a better solution. Maybe I should understand what your job is and provide a better way to do it. And the truth is, when it comes to people making systems like you are doing, what you are saying without saying it is, I'm building system X for me, I am providing a better version of what you're doing by providing a Y and a Z, but I am not dogfooding my own systems. I am assuming whatever way you're doing it is not as good as the hypothetical way I'm doing it, but I'm not even using my own system to build a Y to prove that my Y is better than the Ys that are out there. If you were going to build a system that does X, Y, and Z, you would better prove why your system is better than the Ys that are out there. And honestly, that's a hard job to do. You're better off trying to pick one thing and doing that rather than building a homogeneous ultimate system and assuming that yours is better than the alternative.
But I am using it in my own thing.
But not for the scenarios you are saying you are taking avenues to build that aren't in your game.
Well, there are many things that can be done with the game module system that I'm building that I am not going to do. But
then why are you doing? Is my point. I know you're saying because someone somewhere hypothetically might want
No. These are emergent things. Can't, like, people on the Discord, they say, "Oh, can you do crafting with that?" I'm probably not going to have crafting in my game, but the answer is yes, you can do crafting with it. Oh, okay. Now I don't need to build a crafting system because I know I could build a crafting system with this, but I don't need to, now I don't need to go out and build a crafting system. If I want to add a crafting system later, I can easily do that. It won't be a problem. Just because the game modules can do all this stuff I'm not going to do doesn't mean it's bad. In my opinion, it makes it better. And the idea that I can use this in my game and other people can use it in different ways, that's more of a communication problem for me to solve about how to show people that, oh, this can be used in your game too. And this is just strictly for selling the game modules to people, getting them to pay their hard-earned money for it. That's that job. And to showcase a great way of using it, I'm building my own game as well using it. And I can then show, look, this is how it works. And that's that dog fooding is why I spent the past few weeks redoing some key features, because as I got deeper using it, I realized, oh shoot, this is not quite the way it should be, and this is not quite the way it should be. Again, dual goals, not just making a game, but also making a thing that people, hopefully 10,000 of those people would want to buy,
I mean, maybe I'm just being harsh on that. I don't see that as a valid argument. Because if something is good enough, people will buy it. I don't think it's an argument of I'll pivot towards a hypothetical audience that isn't the thing I want to make. To put things in perspective, imagine I said to you, here is my super smart Uber machine that simultaneously cuts grass, castrates calves, and gives you a haircut. And here's a barber. Who do you want to cut your hair? The multi-purpose machine that does 50 things, or the person who does it for a living? Right?
Well, sure, except what if you go to that barber and say, great, you can cut my hair, right? Yeah, I can cut your hair. And then you show up and they're like, oh, but I only give bowl cuts. And I'm like, well, can you please, I would prefer a barber that's flexible so I can go and say, barber, I need this picture. Can you do that? And the barber looks at it and says, yep.
But you've almost proved my point, right? Which is, if you are building a quote-unquote barber system, you should start with one which does nothing, then oppose, what if it could do a bowl cut, and you make a system that does a bowl cut. Then have a hypothetical user that comes along and says, I want braids, and you make a braid system. And you actively build systems that directly purport to match with requirements as provided. Suddenly, it becomes a lot more appealing as an offer. My point is to say you've got this chasm of it either does A or it does all the things, providing you're willing to spend 2 weeks customizing it. And if you step out of your own bubble and go, as a consumer, is either of those appealing? Either it does A or it does A to Z if you're willing to read the documentation for 2 weeks. The truth is, there's probably an easier benefit, which is What if I propose a solution that actively is a thing I want to do, and it does that thing? And again, I know that sounds like more work, but it really isn't. If you're willing to go through the steps of, I am making an isometric game whereby I do X, Y, and Z, you build an example scene where it's isometric and it does X, Y, and Z, and it uses your system. Then you make an example scene, which is a first person thing where your character is a character controller, does X. And then you just propose problems. What if my character gets corrupted by a neighboring poison because they walked in a trigger box? Then just do it for both. It would take you 30 minutes or an hour and like make a trigger box on trigger enter, start a ticking timer, corruption level goes down. If corruption gets below a certain level, health goes down. And you've now made a thing which is not a hypothetical potential, maybe might be used in some game. You have made a thing which, regardless of what game you're making, if you want corruption, it's here. Now you make poison or whatever else that are all limited or based on the same system. You can suddenly not advertise either does X or does all the things, ... if you're willing to research how to do it. You can now advertise does poison, does corruption, does whatever, because you have proposed to yourself a system you wish existed and you've made it. And a sound argument might be, but that's a lot of work. That's not what I'm trying to make. It's like, sure, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't tell me you're making a game, but also an asset for sale, and then balk at the idea of putting effort into the asset when it's not your game. You have to choose your battles. It can either be your game or your asset, but if you're making an asset, if you're being brutally honest with yourself, what's a better sales pitch? Here is a stat system that does health regen and corruption and, poison and tick damage.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's like, I know those words. That makes sense to me. That's a system I can put in my game, rather than this is a system that does stats and stuff if you're willing to learn how. It's like, well, I don't want that. I want a thing that does the thing I need. It's what I want,
sure.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with you, except that there's way too much, too many cases where suddenly somebody's like, okay, that's cool. It does poison. Okay, but it needs to do poison over time. So now I need to go back and say, okay, now let me add poison over time. So I can add poison over time. But this is a never-ending thing. Somebody requests something, then I do it. I don't want that job. What I want is to have a system that where I can say, yes, it does that already. This is how you do it. I don't know.
Well, right, but that's where I agree with you, and my stamp in the fucking sand would be don't make an asset first. Make your fucking game. And every feature your game has becomes a de facto feature of your asset. And then release your asset. Well, no, because you're not putting them game first. And my point is, if you had a sand pit in your game and you built some sort of system for that, and then it was in your stat system and someone said, man, my game has vampires, I wish there was some vampire sucking blood statistic thing, whatever, you can then evaluate logistically if that's worth doing as a cost benefit to your system. I'm not saying go and build every feature every hypothetical user would want to use. I'm saying you have to look at it as an objective cost benefit. Does adding that feature as the asset make the asset more sellable? Are you actively saying the cost benefit to that time equals that better asset? Right now, you're building hypothetical features that neither you will use, or can you point to a person who will use? You were saying, but I know people ... will want to use it.
I
Who's
will
that for?
use these features. There's not a single module has anything that I won't be using. So
what about the look stuff that you're not using?
Which stuff?
The look stuff. You spent like an entire stream working on luck features that you said you're not using in your own game.
I'm using luck in my game. I was using that as an example of what you could do with this. You could use luck, but you don't have to use luck, is what I was saying. Like, the system works with luck. It works with magical jujubes as well. Whatever those are. I don't know what those are. Maybe your game has that. And so you can add that in your game using the system. I'm going to use luck. I'm going to type in luck and say, this stat is luck. and it affects this in all these different ways, and boom, it works. But there's no
Okay,
system,
so
no part
it's
of the
very simple
Yeah.
question then. Show me two gifts side by side, one where you didn't use luck, one where you did, and show me what that added to your game. What features has that added?
Well, first of all, I don't have any GIFs, and I still call it GIFs. Second of all,
I'm never gonna meet you on that. I know the creator says that, but I'm never going to join you there. You're on your own.
But I'm not understanding the point of the challenge or the prompt there.
Okay, fine. Like, the problem is that this is the fundamental issue with every time I talk to a game dev, is they don't see themselves as what's called a product owner. There's like 12 jobs related to something that's releasing a product. The project manager, a product owner, the QA, the testing, and the developer. There's like a whole hierarchy of jobs. And when you're a solo dev, you're so locked in to seeing yourself as one job. And there's no way for me to get you to see this until you've seen this from a third-party perspective. But if you could visualize your time as a salaried employee, if you could just I really think you, as somebody who pays people, should be better at this than most people I talk to. If you look at every minute that you ever spend, I know you're saying I do it in my free time, I do it in this stuff, I do it in the streams, and I get other value because I'm building. All of that aside, every minute you sit down to work on your project, if you imagine a hypothetical timer and you ticked it up, and when you're done, you imagine you expected to be paid for that time. If you expected to turn to somebody and say, if you want to be really fucking polite, charge yourself only minimum wage. Barest the cheapest fucking wage for your own time on your own project. Expect every 2 hours of you sitting on a stream, you should turn to quote unquote yourself and go, I would like 2 hours of salary, please. If you can internalize that idea, it starts to make you think, oh, can I say, if I was offered the choice before this started, would I have spent this money for 2 hours of chatting on stream? Would I have gotten my money's worth? And you will bite your lip and go, well, probably not. I, as a person, as a dev, had a bit of fun. I got some work done. It was kind of fine. But if you were to pay you to do that, you'd pretty brutally go, well, they're not worth the money. Right? That's not financially viable.
I don't disagree with you, though. I don't disagree with you, except that my goal is not just to make the game. My goal is multifaceted. Like, if I were just focused on developing the game modules and the game, I wouldn't stream it because I'm more efficient when I don't stream. But there is value I get from streaming that I would not get then, which includes many things. First, I get to talk to people, which, in these days is nice from just a personal standpoint.
Hey, don't get me wrong. How much of my time do I spend sitting in your fucking streams that don't add me value?
I get free education lessons from a master educator. There's a lot of benefits to it.
Thousands of dollars for this, and you're getting it for free.
I'm normally more polite though when people pay me, so there's that too.
I mean, there's also him self-learning, right? I mean, it's an educational process for him as well. There's value to that in the talking it out and maybe over-engineering things to some extent. I think there's value there, and there's value in not just being the programmer who makes a system for a game, but also being a middleware developer, right? I mean, he's wearing a little bit of that middleware hat as well.
See, I agree with you, and just to really double down on that, this is me being maybe super cynical from experience on this, because I know a little bit more about Andrew's background than some of the people here. Is that Andrew deals with other people regularly. He deals with people who he hires to do 3D modeling. He deals with people from his business side on financial stuff with housing, and he's shrewd enough to be pretty fucking smart to cull the people who aren't adding value and keep the people who are, and maintain a fairly profitable benefit on those sides. And my point is, somebody who is in this profession can fall into the trap of seeing every other endeavor they do in a very logical, oh, well, that's not worth it financially, but see themselves as not a cost. It's quote unquote just my time, or it's just me working on it. And what I'm saying is, I know from experience of what Andrew does in other avenues that he is better than most equipped to understand when it's sunk cost or when it's worthwhile or when it's like he will evaluate it financially. Is this a good investment? He literally did a fucking talk about when it's worthwhile or not. Like, he knows these numbers. And my point is, there's a blinkering that people do because they don't see themselves as employees for their own projects. And I'm not saying anything he's doing is wrong. I'm saying if he was a student learning, this would be perfectly fine. But if the argument is I am making it quote unquote for my game, but also potentially to sell as an asset, you have to be more shrewd. You have to start saying, I am worth X. My time could be spent. If the argument is, well, I also get value from streaming. Do you get as much value as producing YouTube videos? Well, probably not really. Like, there are other ways if that's the benefit. So you have to be really clinical and say, my time could be spent YouTubing or developing or streaming and YouTubing, or like put the cost into your calculator and figure it out. And the truth is, you have to decide if it's worth your time. And I'm not saying that it really matters that much. Like, I don't really put this effort on myself, but I'm saying if you're doing that and your psychological argument is, oh, it's fine, it's just for me, or it's fine, other people will use it, or it's fine, it's also an asset, so I've got this extra avenue of revenue. These are all buffer excuses. And the truth is, if you were paying yourself to do this, you would have fired yourself. And I'm saying just to take a step back and be brutally honest with yourself and say you would want, as a consumer, steps that prove that this is going in the positive direction. And the easiest way to do that for everyone involved, and this isn't just financial, is I want a game where there is a village. I want a door I could open in the village where I talk to the village elder. I want a village elder who will tell me to go kill 3 boars. I want to kill 3 boars and get currency. I want to get currency and buy a better sword. Each one of these becomes a substantive, provable, each week benefit to the system that justifies the financial imperative that the quote-unquote financier puts in, but it's also philosophically just comfortable to know that you each week can say to somebody, it now does an X, it didn't do X last time. And if your argument is, no, but I need a system to do all of the hypothetical X's, it's like, well, no, you don't. Right now, your game needs to X. Make it to X, and over time, learn to make better systems. But the argument of, I'll sit and make the perfect system first, is a fallacy. That's not how systems work. I have worked on a lot of companies, a lot of systems, and sitting there and building the quote-unquote perfect system before you ever test run it is not how that works. Because the very first day you run your quote-unquote perfect system, you will hit some edge case. You're like, oh, I didn't think there'd be pebbles this size, or I didn't think there'd be stuff this way. And there'll be some small tweaks, and you'll be, it's not a big deal. It's not going to end your whole project, but it's enough that you may think, oh, maybe I wasn't right, like vacuum packing my project and building in isolation. Maybe I should have worked with the active use cases. I want my game to X. I want my system to Y, and you literally test it in the heat of the actual scenario, and you build the system in tandem with the requirements, which isn't just philosophically nicer. It means financiers, or even if it's just you, see benefit as it goes. It means the project gets physically more features every single week. It means you get the satisfaction of seeing it get better every week. It means you have a better direction because you're not abstractly picking features. You're saying, last week we added X, let's add X where every time I pick up an X, it increases my health. And you get to like have a very linear build of new features you want. Every single aspect of development gets easier if you start with an objective that you build slowly over time. And I have a really hard time finding a good psychological argument against this.
I don't completely disagree with you. I think I just see it differently, I think, right now. And maybe it's because I haven't learned the hard way, I suppose. But
well, my unfortunate truth is I mean, this isn't a metaphor. I have seen companies over 4 years spend over $6 million on a project that never have a prototype, which sounds like a joke, but imagine 6 years of development. It's insane, and there's never a single playable project at the end of it. Because every developer is like, no, we're fine. We're just working on the systems. No, the systems can support all these features. It's like, well, yeah, but can I just like press play and walk my character forward? No, like it could do that if we develop that. We're just not doing that right now because that's not relevant. We're currently doing the like taking damage when you're under corruption mode. It's like, well, can I play the game? You could play the game if we built it, but that's not relevant right now. And so there's this and the thing is, the game will change as the gameplay changes, and I can't even. This is a whole different relationship from. There are games which came out as one thing, the playtesters played it. One of the sub features, like one of the movement mechanics, was more fun than the game, and they pivoted the entire fucking game to match the side thing because it was more fun. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying if you put all of your eggs in one basket, you're assuming you've picked the right horse, as opposed to releasing it early to players, letting them play it, go, oh shit, they're enjoying the like economy far better than I thought they would. Maybe I should put more resources there.
See, I agree with you, but I feel like I can't do what you're saying to do. I can't release a game that people can play to the point at which it's like, oh, that's fun. Or to the point at which they're like, oh, this is a game. But Sandra Fridge, thank you for the contribution to the streaming salary.
Nice. Thank you very much.
There's the zombie. Yeah, I think I as you may have remembered, the game had there was a playable build at some point where you could walk around and hit zombies. They didn't die, not goblins. They didn't die, but you could hit them and stuff. But again, I don't feel like I can build that in any reasonable amount of time compared to what I'm doing now. It would take the same amount of time in the end.
I just don't buy that argument. I really don't. Let me put it another way. Imagine I had a knife to your throat and I'm said, you have to build a character who walks forward. I just press
obviously
W.
But I already have the walking forward
that's
part.
No, I'm saying if there's an empty project, there was nothing, and I said you have to make a project that walks forward, knife to your throat, go. You'd be like, well, shit, how long could I do that in? Honestly, I could probably download a character controller and make it work in what? Worst case scenario, an hour. I think we can both do that in an hour, right? We could make a character move forward, like worst case scenario, right? Mm-hmm. In agreement on that? And if I said to you now, okay, knife to your throat, you had better press a button which causes an animation which slashes. Okay, that's an hour to make an animation where it animates and slashes the thing. Okay, now you have to have an AI who stands perfectly still in front of you, and if you slash it, he does a little animation and plays a sound, and your health, your experience goes up if he dies. Okay, how long would that? I don't know, about an hour. And just keep doing that. You're like, well, shit. If I like knife to your throat, asked you to quote unquote build a game, I'm pretty fucking sure in under 2 weeks you would have an astronomical amount of progress. You would have a character who walks around an environment, kills orcs, increases health, gets experience, based on the experience upgrades levels. You're like, but he doesn't have my complex super system of like statistics, whatever. It's like, yeah, but that's not the requirements we have right now.
Well, and it's
a fallacy of building that argument.
You do start with requirements of, I know that I'm going to have ranged weapons and not ranged weapons. I know that I'm going to have, magic things. So is there not value in starting with laying out a system for those things rather than going very granular and saying, okay, I'm going to do fireball, and now I'm going to do healing, and
No,
now I'm
and
going
this
to
is
do lightning.
no, and no, because of a very this is purely from experience. There is a very tempting motivation to go, I know I will need potentially 6 kinds of AoE abilities. Some are fireball, some are like radial, some are whatever. I will sit down and start to build a system. But already you've fallen into the fallacy of there are hypothetical scenarios with hypothetical problems I'll hypothetically solve. It's like, hang on a second. What's the actual problem? Oh, well, I haven't got that yet. I'm presuming I'll have it, so I'm trying to solve it now. Or you can build like 5 lines of code that says do raycast fire, spawn object, throw it. You're like, but that's not scalable. True, 100%. But it does the fucking job of the actual problem you have now. Then you say, I want an AoE healing. Okay, how would I do that? I don't know. Sphere collider, grab nearest, add, call, get component is healable.heal. Okay, I'll do that. But that's not scalable. True, but it works. And you keep doing that. And at some point, you stop and go, holy shit, I've got 5 systems. Well, what if I wanted to add a 6th? Okay, it'd be a bit clunky now. Maybe now that I have provably made 5 systems that works, I suddenly know what the abstraction is because I can see it. I can see what's repeated across these 5 systems. I'm not guessing anymore. I'm not presuming what a hypothetical future system with 6 systems might do. I have made the systems. I know what the information is, and now I can extract out the common elements. So the kind of TLDR on that is don't presume to build systems that might hypothetically potentially add value based on hypothetical solutions with hypothetical boundaries. You build the thing you actually need, and then you build the other thing you actually need, and you build the third thing you actually need. And when you're done, you have 3 things you actually need. Then you pause and go, well, shit, I have 3 things I actually needed. A 4th one would be very repetitious. Maybe I should stop and see what's common about the 3 things I have.
Right, but in the case when you have that 4 at the very beginning, isn't it better to sit down and say, all right, how can I do all 4 of these things? Like if I know for a fact that I'm going to have, AoE spells, range spells, and touch spells, and self spells, shouldn't I not sit down with paper before I even pick up the keyboard? Should I not sit down with this pencil and paper and draw that out and say, okay, this is what my systems are going to look like? Or are you maintaining that? Are you maintaining that it is better to go, okay, make a heal spell, make an AoE spell, make a targeted spell, fireball, whatever, and then sit back and go, all right, now I'm going to turn that into a more generic system, right? A database system. And not data-based system.
I mean, I can't get any more specific than if you're a doctor, do you start making antidotes to poisons you've never experienced, or do you wait till the problem happens and you make an antidote to it? Like, it just seems so silly.
Okay, then to keep that metaphor, if you're a doctor, do you go and you sit in an empty office and wait for someone to come in who's sick and say, hold on a second, I'm going to go down and buy a stethoscope, and then you go and you use the stethoscope and you go, okay, well, now I need to look in your ear, so I'm be right back, I'm going to go buy an otoscope. Like, you should have known that you're going to need a thermometer, an otoscope, a stethoscope. Now, I'm not saying go buy axial tomography thing, right? A CAT scan. I'm not saying go do that, but there are a certain set of you're going to need surgery. You need anesthesia and a scalpel and sponges, and right.
Okay, so let me ask you then. How would you know which of these to pre-get and which of these are guesstimations? How would you know which are the right amount of preparation versus like over the top? Like when are you like buying random snake venom versus actively buying stethoscopes, which are like general usage? So I ask you particularly, right, when would you know one or the other, A or B, if you're this doctor, this hypothetical doctor?
Right. Presumably, you would get that knowledge. You would, as a doctor, you would either have gotten that knowledge in med school, or you would have gotten that knowledge working for another doctor during your residency.
Okay, perfect. Let's pause there. Right? So why would they have mentioned it in med school, and why would that other doctor have given you that knowledge?
because that's how the apprentice system works, right? That's how
but why would
works.
Right, but why would that have been included as opposed to here's 50 different snake venoms?
Right. Well, they would probably give you the set of, the smallest set of things that you're going to need, right? I mean, like you see every doctor walking around with a stethoscope.
You're going down rabbit hole.
Right?
My point is, but we're circling to the same thing, which is these are problems that are known to happen with known solutions.
Exactly.
And you're given the preset known solutions. My point is, if you are building a system, you don't know the problems yet. You as a system designer are choosing, I wish my system could X. And then you build the solution that includes that stethoscope to build X. And then you decide, my game happens in a place full of snakes, I will now build the snake venom thing. So we're not in disagreement. The difference is, I am saying, as exactly as you are, is that when a problem has occurred, we provide a solution to that problem. The difference is, you're saying, well, here's a bunch of preset solutions, we should probably follow those. I don't disagree at all. But my point is that you shouldn't start with a blank slate and start building hypothetical solutions to hypothetical problems. And what you should do is propose to your own system a known problem. If you are saying you've got an anti-inflammatory, start your game by making someone inflamed and then give them an anti-inflammatory and just iterate slowly and surely until every one of those known quantities makes sense. They are not there as a random arbitrary addition. They have actively proven worth. And in the whole metaphor, you can drill all the way down to med school and whatever else, but you're only taught those things because they are known quantities. And I'm saying, build your system off known quantities.
This is my takeaway. My takeaway is that a doctor should invest in snake venoms and snakes.
And snakes, yeah.
You can't go wrong with snakes.
I used to work for a company that made email protection systems and email mass distribution systems.
There you go. I mean,
we used to say we made the gun and the bulletproof vest.
This is going down a different tangent, but the Axe as the brand, Axe body spray, which is very culturally insensitive at times in today's world. They don't have as many ads today as they did, but they are owned by Unilever, who also owns Dove.
I'm gonna unequivocally say I loved the old Axe. I don't care that it's not quality. It's not.
No, that's fine. Right, that's fine.
The OG was so good. They were so good.
Their marketing style is kind of like all about the body, is should be sexy and hot and all this stuff and charged with sexuality and all that. But Unilever also owns Dove, which runs the exact opposite ads. In both cases, you could say that the Dove's ads are an antidote to the poison that is Axe, but they're the same company. You could also point out that, what was the other thing I was going to say? The makeup industry. I mean, the makeup industry purposely tells people they don't look good, and we're the solution. The problem solution. And the reality is they have a bunch of crappy products, and what they're trying to do is, how do we sell these products? Anyways, that's a rabbit hole too. I think I'm looking forward to an adult beverage and some time in a new world, which I think
I've been adult beveraging the whole time.
I'm in a new world right now.
Damn it!
I've been adult beveraging for the last 3 hours, man. What do you
Wait a minute. So you guys are playing New World. You guys are
New World.
I've been ripped off here. It's okay. Abanori, by the way, thank you as well.
I guess I've been developing in Unity and not playing New World.
Boring.
I guess. Look, let me summarize here, because I don't know I feel like I'm the minority on this point, but the general idea is that forget all of the minutia. I'm coming from like 3 different angles of business acumen and managing stuff and project management. Forget all that. I would say exclusively from the perspective of you developing this thing. If there's one thing that I say this all of the time for my coding, every Sunday I probably said this at least once, which is write code you enjoy using. I think that's probably my favorite catchphrase, because I think there's no better indication that your code's going wonky than this feels icky. Why do I have to write like 12 fucking adapters and categories and subclasses just to do an X? And even if you don't know much about architecture, if you're too much or too little, it doesn't matter. If you start doing stuff and it's like, oh, I have to write 15 if statements for this, you know it feels wrong. You know there's something icky there. And I guess my point is, there should be a point where I think everybody who's being honest with themselves will feel it. I have spent 3 weeks working on my quote-unquote game, and I cannot point to a stranger who walks into my office and says, hey, what are you working on? My game. What have you added? Oh, some stuff. Where is it? And you can't point on the screen. There is nothing you can point at that is different or new or interesting or feature-driven that you have done in 2 weeks to 3 weeks. And that's got to make you pause and at least think, regardless of whether my intentions are good, there's got to be something wrong here. This can't be the right way to develop software where months can go by and I cannot point to a new mechanic or feature or system. I have spent literally 20 or 30 hours on my game and I cannot point to a single little animation or sound effect that is fundamentally different to a user experience in my game. And I'm not saying, and I know, again, we've both been there, I know games are not that straightforward. You can't go one-to-one. But there's got to be some disconnect there. You ask yourself, does this feel right? Should I really have been able to spend 3 weeks and not be able to prove to a person who would be a hypothetical user of my game? Like, we're not talking about programmers here. A standard random person who walks up and presses play in my game, if they cannot see what I spent a month of my life on, was it really worthwhile? And that alone should at least give you pause to question the philosophy of design choices you're making.
I think it was worth my while. I mean, I see things that the modules are far better than it was before, and I liked it before, and I like it better now, and I like using it. So there's that, to your point. Well,
I know I sound like such a downer. I don't mean it from that perspective. I'm trying to save you your own time. That's what I'm trying to get to.
And I appreciate it. But I do think it is time for me to go. I have to go make an adult beverage. And that means I have to go out to the farm in order to get the rye, to make the rye.
See,
in 12 years, I will have my bourbon. But
I guess if you're on New Worlding, then I'm definitely like still fucking 50 levels behind you. So you're gonna have to like walk me through whatever you're doing currently.
I'm at level 21 now, I think.
I'm still like 14, so
just about to ding 23.
23? Jeez. Yes. Well, I will be New Worlding. What? 54?
Now, how long are you going to be playing New World for?
Oh, well, since, my boss isn't working tomorrow, probably an hour or so.
Okay, I'll get on and play with you guys.
Ha. Ha ha. So anyone else, if you're watching and you're on New World, what's the world we're in? Was it I always say it wrong.
Magmel.
Right. Yeah,
West
Magmel. Yeah, I just have to think of Family Guy. But I'm going to go make a beverage. I'm going to go to the bathroom. And then I'm going to load up the game. So if anybody else plays New World, find us. I don't know how you find us, I suppose.
Well, I'm going to definitely get a beer and a bathroom break too, so why not? We'll catch you afterwards.
Thank you, everyone, and a special thanks to Abanori and Sandor. Sandor, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, I would probably pronounce it wrong, but I will try with Faher. I could be wrong. But thank you all for participating. Jason, definitely thank you for the conversation and debate. I can't wait for GDC and stuff to roll around, because I can imagine that we're going to have an epic night out at the bars during GDC or Unite or something.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm literally like, honestly, I've never been, but you know what? I feel obliged. I feel like I have to go just so you can buy me a drink. That's the only reason.
Yeah, because I know I'm in the Bay Area, so I'm like spoiled where I can always go. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can go. It's cheap because I just have to get on the train and go in there. So I've gone to a lot of them and I like it. And so I'm looking forward to the next time that those things exist where people go. Unite is better than GDC in my opinion, though. But
honestly, like, it's weird. Like, when I was younger, I had a point where I had to pick. Now I could go to all of them. I haven't got a business justification because, again, if I'm being hypercritical, you normally go to one of the events if you either have something to sell or you're building a profile prior to your game. I have neither, but I have the financial reserves to go exclusively for drinking sessions, and I think I have enough people I can hit up for those. So I think it's worth going exclusively as holidays at this stage.
But I
probably
will say
make up airfare and drinks, right?
The networking is a business case, and I will say I got my full-time job 4.5 years ago because I went to GDC and saw a job posting and said, I'm not qualified, but I'm going to apply anyways. And I got that job, or they created a job for me. But if it wasn't for GDC, that would not have happened. So totally worth it.
Maybe I'll get you to put a word in for me and get a job.
I'm pretty sure you could get a job where I work, no problem. But, if you ever wanted to.
All right, I get a drink for our next gaming session. Yeah,
and they give free drinks, by the way, at the workplace. But anyways, I don't think they have an Ireland office, so that wouldn't work for you. Anyways, time to go make the drink, all that other stuff. Oh, San Andreas, you're local. There you go. I've lived in San Jose quite a few times.